3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
We need a reset for Maggie. We desperately need something.
Laura said it's okay, Maggie. It'll all be okay. You don't know that, Laura.
Yeah.
I love you, but you don't know that.
No,
You know Maggie's got off the deep end when she's yelling at the widow.
No. Laura's perceptive. Today is more of an intervention than a radio show.
No.
Deep breath.
She's doing breathing exercises.
I want a camera on Maggie when Drew Gilbert hits a grand slam to win the divisional round, and I just want to be there and say, I told you.
7 years.
Yeah. In the year 2030, when I renounce my Mets fandom for good. I'm just kidding. I can't quit you.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
You have questions. I know you have questions because I am not either Maggie or Perloff. And don't tell me which one I most resemble. Okay, I won't want to know that either. I know you have questions. I'm Amy. You may know me, Amy Lawrence, after hours on CBS Sports Radio, or you may not, and you may think, damn it. No, this is not what I wanted on my Friday afternoon. You know what? It'll be over in 3 hours. Just grin and bear it. It'll be good. And maybe we'll have some fun along the way. Kevin and Manny are on the other side of the double pane glass. And here's what I didn't know. Apparently, the live YouTube stream starts even before the show does. So I've already gotten text messages from people that I love telling me, oh, I can see what you're doing in the studio. I can't see what I'm doing, but I'll warn you right now, I talk with my hands. Just beware. Generally, over the course of a show, I'll smack the microphone a couple times. I'll be constantly playing with my pen. It's not a healthy habit, but it is what it is. It's my favorite sports phrase. And so if I happen to distract you with my hand waving, maybe just turn off the stream. That's all I can say. But hello to my family who's tuning in. I know you have another question about why there are flowers here in studio, don't you? Well, in order to get the answer to that question, you're going to have to wait and listen. You're going to have to pay attention. It's still CBS Sports Radio. This is the same studio that I use at night when I do my own show, but I do feel like a fish out of water because, as Kevin said a couple of minutes ago, the sun is up and I am here. What is happening? Also, not to complain or anything, but my Friday, my weekend usually begins at 6 a.m. Eastern. I'm taking one for the team here, you guys. My weekend doesn't start until 12 hours later. Also, I'm a little nervous because even though Kevin is focused and smiling, Manny's wandering around. Why are you pacing in there? What's happening? Is something wrong? Do I have something hanging out of my nose?
No, none of that. I'm just making sure that I don't mess up on my part. I know you're going to be absolutely spectacular because you're Amy Lawrence.
Spectacular. Thank you.
Absolutely spectacular because you're Amy Lawrence. But for me, I'm a putz. So.
No. We're all created equal here on this show, and I'm glad you guys are here. Except for people who wear Yankees hats. In that case, we're not created equal. Oh, sorry, Manny. If you want to talk about the Yankees, we can definitely do that, except no one around the rest of the country cares.
Yeah, no, I'm good on the Yankees.
In fact, I'm not even sure New Yorkers care right now.
It's basketball season. When do the Knicks start, baby?
No, it's not basketball season, but you know what it is. 3 weeks to the start of the NFL season. In fact, this time in exactly 3 weeks, your friends Maggie and Perloff will be back here on CBS Sports Radio in this particular time slot, and they will be talking about the season opener that took place the night before. How about that? I actually don't know what the season opener is because I do not memorize the schedule ahead of time. I'm going to bet it has the Chiefs. Now that's amazing. Chiefs and Lions, because who doesn't need more Dan Campbell in his or her life? Okay, so over under on how many times I accidentally say after hours. The last time I did this show, it was 2.5 times. I broke myself off in the middle of the third time. What do you guys think? I'll say 2. Are you going over or under?
I'm going to go over.
Oh, you don't have much faith in me?
I'll take the over as well.
Wow. Okay.
It's not having,
to prove you wrong.
It's not having faith in you. It's just, creatures of habit, right?
It is, and it's been a long time. I'm a creature of the overnights, and I've been doing that show for now better part of 10 years. And so this is definitely different, but different is not bad. It's good to get outside of our comfort zone, especially on a Friday. We're going to call this a conflict resolution Friday. Now, it is a free-for-all Friday. Anything goes on a Friday, especially in the summertime when nobody's paying attention. That's when we get away with so much. But we're going to call this a conflict resolution Friday because there are some parties out there. And by party, I don't mean we. By party, I just mean groups of people who definitely need conflict resolution. I'm going to try hard not to take sides, too. I'm going to try to be a mediator. I'm not great at it when it comes to James Harden, especially. I'll just be honest. Full disclosure. Maybe I should recuse myself, but I won't because this is Sports Talk Radio. There are few people that I dislike more in professional sports than James Harden. And here he is crying wolf again and expecting that once again, heaven and earth is going to part, open up, move for James Harden. See what I told you about my hands, my arms, I can't help it. It's very distracting, I know. Just stop watching. Or look at the beautiful flowers. James Harden has already used this trick. But the sad thing is that it worked twice before. And what you may not know is that even before he forced his way out of Houston, it worked in Houston. Daryl Morey caved to whatever James Harden wanted. Daryl Morey said, okay, let's keep our superstar happy. And granted, he won an MVP. He was the leader in the NBA in assists last year, so he's still productive, except for in game 7s of playoff series, or when you really need him to hit a three, he can't hit the broadside of a barn. His game goes one-dimensional. He wanted Chris Paul. He wanted Russell Westbrook. He wanted different players around him in Houston. When Daryl Morey was there, Morey acquiesced, gave him what he wanted. Great. Except it didn't work. They had a couple of good playoff runs. Damn, those Warriors got into their way every single time. But honestly, even if the Warriors aren't in the equation, there's no guarantee that a team run by James Harden ever wins a title. So they don't win in Houston. They decide in Houston. Daryl Morey decides in Houston, we've got to make changes because the James Harden plan isn't working. And so they make changes. They ship people out. They bring in a new coach. Harden's miserable. Now he wants to be traded from Houston. But they didn't want to give him that trade initially. So what does he do? He gets fat. He shows up late to camp. He breaks COVID protocols. He refuses to practice. He disrespects his brand new coach. He disrespects veteran players like John Wall, who had just been traded to Houston. But he did it because he was going to be a brat until he got his own way. Well, lo and behold, because you can't operate an NBA franchise like that, yeah, Morey shipped him to Brooklyn because that's what he wanted. Oh, someone tell me how that worked out. Actually, I don't need you to. Do you know that James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant played 16 full games together? As in 16. That's not what the Brooklyn Nets paid for. Now, it's partly on the Nets because they were also allowing the NBA superstars to run the franchise and to make personnel decisions. But James Harden was part of that. And guess what happened? When he got disgruntled, he used his same playbook and he asked out again. This time it was to Philadelphia. Daryl Morey's there. That was supposed to be the connection, right? I'm going to go back and work with this guy who gave me everything I wanted. Because that's the side of a perfect relationship, right, Kevin? If one person gives the other person everything they want, you know what happens? First of all, it doesn't work because it's imbalanced and it's out of whack. Second of all, it doesn't work because there's never any give and take. Daryl Morey gave in to James Harden every single thing he wanted, and now Harden thinks he can do it again. And so he opts into his contract. Morey agrees to try to trade him out of Philadelphia because I guess there's some grass greener outside of Philadelphia. Instead of taking responsibility for the fact that Harden's a major reason why the Sixers did not advance past the second round of the NBA playoffs again, he's playing alongside an MVP, which is the reason that he led the NBA in assists last season. Instead of taking responsibility and accountability, now James is ticked. And you don't like him when he's angry because he starts acting like a child, calling people names, getting his side of the story out there. All of this because he thinks he deserves better. A better contract, a max deal, more respect, a trade somewhere else. Except I guess it never dawned on him that there aren't a whole lot of other teams out there that want to bring him on board. At least not for the asking price of the Sixers, but also not for James Harden's asking price. So he's on the rampage right now and needs a little conflict resolution. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll give you some of his choice words for Daryl Morey. The audio is a little tough on the first one, but what you need to know is that he's firing darts from, wait for it, China about the general manager of the Sixers.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of again.
Pulling out the big guns, is he? Couldn't get Morey to cave like he did in Houston. Doesn't like the fact that it's been a couple months and there's been no trade that's been made. Morey tried to trade him to the Clippers from the Sixers. It didn't work. They didn't want to pay the asking price. So now it's been a couple of months. He hasn't gotten what he wanted. So it's about firing shots over the wall. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never play for any organization that he is a part of. And then he doubles down on it in China. It's rich. The irony is so rich. Because in the NBA, everyone plays with his BFF, right? Well, he's now in Houston, gone from China, now in Houston, and did an interview with KHOU Channel 11 about the Sixers because he feels like it's a better option to make sure he gets his side of the story out there before anybody else has a say.
Do you have an open line of communication with the 76ers, and how much patience do you need to have to let this play out?
I've been patient all summer, so for me it's just focus on what I can control, and that's working out, staying in shape, and getting ready for a good season.
Too late to repair the relationship?
I think so.
I'm sorry, did he say I've been really patient all summer? I suppose that doesn't include the trip to China where he's calling his boss a liar. Oh my gosh. It's just James Harden's world, and we're living in it. Just as a side note, coming up next hour, we will check in with my longtime friend and colleague, John Kincaid, who works for 97.5 The Fanatic. He specializes in uncomfortable radio. He specializes in conflict resolution. Let me just tell you, he will not hold back. A little bit later, we'll hear from the agent for James Harden, who convinces you that this is the year that Harden takes the league by storm. Okay, more conflict resolution is needed. Jonathan Taylor, the Indianapolis Colts. We'll get into this a little bit later on, but right now, Taylor, he's sending a message. Do I believe that he might still have an ankle issue and he might have a personal matter and that's why he's away from the Colts? Sure. But he is in no hurry to get back to training camp because he also wants to be traded. The issue is that he has a contract similar to James Harden. So anybody out there, tell me, if you're running a franchise and you have players under contract, you try to trade him, it doesn't work in the case of Harden. Or in the case of Jonathan Taylor, you realize he's one of the best backs in the NFL. Why would you trade him anyway? You're going to do what's best for your team. So in the case of the Sixers, I'm on the side of Daryl Morey. He shouldn't trade James Harden until he knows he's got exactly what he needs for his team. Otherwise, guess who loses his job? Daryl Morey. In the case of Jonathan Taylor, the owner of the Colts has said, no way we're not trading him. Duh, why would we trade him? First of all, he's a great running back. Second of all, we need him, right? With our brand new rookie, Anthony Richardson, our new rookie quarterback. And so in the case of Jonathan Taylor, I got to side with the team again, but not for the same reasons. I don't think they should trade him. He's great. Why would you trade him? But I'm siding with the team in the case of the contract because if he does have a lingering ankle issue, why are you giving him a long-term deal? That's the problem with Jonathan Taylor. This ankle injury that he suffered goes back to last season, the end of last season. It was supposed to be a 4-week injury. If he's still dealing with it, he did have surgery, right? If he's still dealing with it, then why would the Colts be ready to sign him up long term? That seems like a bad business investment until you know better. Jonathan Taylor, you want to make the money? Then show up. You want to prove to them that you deserve a better contract? Then show up. Maybe you're not getting what you think you're worth. And if you have another 1,800-yard season, probably not. The plight of running backs is not a great one these days in the NFL. But you do have a steady check coming. You show up. You're healthy. You have another season like 21. Boom. They'll back up the shoe. Is it Brinks or Binks truck? Sorry, I know nothing about trucks that bring money. I know nothing about trucks that back up and dump money. Brinks truck, right? I got that. Okay. So with Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, I say you show up and you go to camp. I say you show up and you get ready. Prove to them that you're healthy so that you can get the contract you want. Because if you truly have an ankle issue, then there's not going to be a contract. Why would they give you one? Especially if it's lingering. All right, coming up, we will ask the question of our Sports Illustrated NFL insider when he joins us. Also, we're going to talk to him about the Commanders putting all of their eggs in one basket because Ron Rivera has made his choice about his quarterback position.
I talked with Eric Bieniemy and Tavita yesterday, and after our first preseason game, after both those joint practices, I'm going to name Sam our starter this year going forward. He's basically met the challenge that we talked about, and that was seeing the growth and improvement from OTAs and minicamp, and then talked about going into training camp and continue to grow and show us what he's capable of. And we've been very pleased with it. To the point where I decided yesterday that we were going to name him the starter going into the regular season.
Ron Rivera has made his choice, and everyone's raving about Sam Howell in camp. That's for sure. Now, when I have some more time, I'll get to the whole conflict resolution needed between Eric Bieniemy and the members of the Commanders' offense who don't like that he yells. Okay, I'm going to do this right because I got to prove the punks on the other side of the double pane glass wrong. I'm going to get the name of the show correct. My name, the name of the show, everything's great. Coming up next, we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive into NFL as we are now inside of 3 weeks to go until the regular season kicks off. Are you guys ready? Write it down. Write it down, suckers. I'm Amy Lawrence filling in for Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I talked with Eric Bieniemy and Tabitha yesterday, and after our first preseason game, after both those joint practices, I'm going to name Sam our starter this year going forward.
The voice of one, Ron Rivera, head coach of the Washington Commanders. Remember how the Commanders were the only team not to make the playoffs out of the NFC Beast last season? Well, they have this revolving door at quarterback. If they could settle on one quarterback, or maybe even two, is it asking too much? Let's go one, maybe two quarterbacks, not seven in the last 2-3 years. Why Sam Howell? That's the question. And we will ask that when we're joined by our NFL insider coming up in moments. It's Maggie and Perloff on the live CBS Sports Radio YouTube stream. I know it's working because my family is goofing off in our group chat and telling me what I look like and that I'm a spaz, and that's totally fine. But you can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I generally patrol the overnights from 2 to 6 Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific time, Sunday through Thursday nights. But they didn't make me work last night, so I feel as though I have a full brain operational. We'll need some more caffeine at some point because this is totally out of my comfort zone. So we have most of our quarterbacks that are set now, right? We know that a bunch of rookies are starting around the NFL. What we don't know is about Tampa Bay. So more conflict resolution that's needed there when we talk about Kyle Trask versus Baker Mayfield. And we will also ask Matt Verderam that same question. He joins us now from Sports Illustrated. Matt, happy Friday, first of all.
Hey, happy Friday. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes. Why Sam Howell for the Washington Commanders?
I think really for them, it's probably the best option. I mean, realistically, they could go with Jacoby Brissett, but the reality is, Brissett's not the future there. They know that. He's bounced around the league. He's a good backup. He's not a good starter. And if you're Washington, if you're not winning the Super Bowl this year, you're trying to figure out a little bit of what you may have. Howell's a second-year player. If he's good, you've got a quarterback under rookie contract for the next 3 years. I think it just probably is the higher upside play for the Commanders.
What are your expectations for that team that finished last in the NFC East in 2022 while the other three teams went to the playoffs?
I think it's a team that is still trying to figure out its future a little bit. I mean, and you see that with the quarterback situation, right? I mean, Howell's going to come in there, new offensive coordinator with Eric Bieniemy, who I know has been kind of controversial there. But Bieniemy is going to get the best out of them. Did that in Kansas City. He'll do it in Washington. They have some pieces on offense. You look at McLaurin, you look at Dar Dotson. I mean, they have some talent. And the defensive side of the ball, the front seven is very good. The secondary is really going to be where the questions come in. But I think it's a team that it probably has a low ceiling. I mean, maybe they win 6-7 games. It's just a group that, compared to the Eagles, the Cowboys, those are a quarter of the schedule, those games, and it's going to be hard for them to compete. So competitive, sure. A playoff team, I think that's probably a stretch for Washington.
They weren't actually a losing team last year. They were 8-1 with that tie there against the Giants. So not as bad even as some of the other divisions. For instance, they might have been competing for the division title in the NFC South if they were somewhere else. You mentioned Eric Bieniemy, and we're doing a conflict resolution Friday here, Matt. So this cracks me up. Maybe I'm the only one who finds this amusing. It's not like the Commanders' offense has been so good in recent years that they don't need to be whipped into shape a little bit. But did it make you laugh when you heard about some of the players balking at Bieniemy's style or yelling at them?
Yeah, I thought it was ridiculous. Look, Bieniemy's won 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, and Patrick Mahomes doesn't have a problem with him. Travis Kelce doesn't have a problem with him. Tyreek Hill doesn't have a problem with him. Like, if you're a player on offense in Washington, maybe you should just take his advice and deal with it if it's a little bit gruff. This is the NFL. This isn't JV in high school. This is the National Football League. Guys get yelled at all the time. So I think at some point you have to toughen up a little bit. If that's too hard for you, well, that's fine. Maybe you're not cut out for the NFL. This is a league where Bill has made a living just screaming at people, and he's one of the most successful coaches of all time. I mean, it's the way it is, and I think maybe it shows that in Washington in recent years there hasn't been the accountability that there's going to be under Bieniemy. I think that's a good thing for the team, but maybe something they're not used to.
Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated with us here on a Football Friday. Now it's I almost said it. It's Maggie and Perloff, it's wrong show, on CBS Sports Radio. Matt, who do you think is the better option at starter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think to start the season, it's Baker Mayfield. Look, if you're Todd Bowles, you know that if you don't win this year, if this thing goes sideways, you might be out of a job. And so I think you need to go with Mayfield, who, while he has a ceiling, we all know that. He's on his 14 now in 3 years. He can win games. He's shown that. He went in Cleveland in 2020. They went 11-5. He won a playoff game on the road. Now, that team was built to run the ball and play pretty good defense, and Mayfield had to be a caretaker. With Tampa, he's going to have to push the ball a little bit more down the field with guys like Evans and Godwin. But I think you start out with Mayfield, and if you get off to a good start, maybe you compete in what is a really weak division. If you're not competing and the season clearly isn't going to go the way you want it to by, let's say, around November, then I think you turn it over to Kyle Trask, former second-round pick out of Florida, and say, all right, let's see what we have in this kid. Let's get half the season out of him. Let's get 10 games out of him. But to start, you don't want to lose the room, and I think Mayfield, if you start him, the rest of those veterans will feel like you're giving them their best chance to win.
It's crazy how much turnover there's been in the NFC South. If you think about it, all the coaches and all the quarterbacks have turned over in the last 2 seasons, and it really is a free-for-all. It's totally up for grabs.
It is. It is. I mean, you could really make a case for any of those teams. I think Tampa's probably the team that you would make the least case for, just based on all the turnover. But Atlanta, look, some people love the Falcons. I like the roster. I worry about the quarterback. I don't know that Desmond Ridder is going to be able to win 9-10 games. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he goes and he proves me wrong. I think that's going to be a challenge. New Orleans, of course, you bring in Derek Carr. If Michael Thomas can be healthy, that's an offense you look at and go, okay, you've got Olave, you've got Carr, you've got Thomas, Kamara. That's a good group. I mean, that's a group, especially in the Dome. It's going to score some points. The question you have with the Saints is Dennis Allen. Allen was a disaster with the Raiders, but I don't really hold that against him because they were incredibly dysfunctional. Last year, the team didn't perform very well. So you wonder with that. And I like Carolina if they can block at all. Like Carolina, to me, look, Bryce Young comes in. He's got a really good situation with Frank Reich and some veteran receivers. They bring in Miles Sanders to run the ball. I like that team. Defensively, I think they're going to be pretty good under Jair Evero, came over from Denver. It's just it's a wide-open division. It's probably a race to 9-10 wins at the most.
Matt, we've got a couple of teams that are getting crazy, as Dan Campbell calls it, crazy hype, the hype train, right, in this preseason. One of them is the Detroit Lions. The other is the Jacksonville Jaguars, based on how they finished last year. Jacksonville, obviously, capitalized on its first playoff game with that unbelievable comeback. Which one of those teams do you think is better equipped to actually build on last year as opposed to flop out when they start 23?
I think. By the way, they both will be playoff teams this year. But Jacksonville is better equipped for a few reasons. Better quarterback. more experienced coach, and that division outside of Jacksonville is a tire fire. So they should be 6-0 in that division. Now, I'm not saying they will be. Like they may lose to Tennessee, but they should be 5-1 that big. I mean, realistically, you get 6 games in the AFC South. You get 4 games against the NFC South, which is the weakest division in football. Then, you got to go play Buffalo as part of your first-place schedule. You're going to play them in London, and that's a road game technically for Jacksonville, but it's really almost like a home game. It's a pretty beneficial schedule to get the Chiefs in Jacksonville week 2. So you get them early in the year. It's going to be hot. I think that plays to Jacksonville's advantage. If they're going to beat the Chiefs, that's probably about the best-case scenario, the home opener. I think Jacksonville's got a real chance to push for the top seed in the AFC, not because they're the best team. I don't think they're better than Kansas City or Cincinnati, but it's about the schedule. Remember a couple of years ago when Tennessee was the 1 seed? It's because of the schedule, the way the schedule played out. I think that Jacksonville could absolutely win 12 games and be right there. I don't think they'll get the 1, but I think they're going to be in the conversation because their schedule is just really, really easy, and I do think they're good.
As opposed to, say, the AFC East, where Buffalo's going to have a fight, or even the West, where theoretically, I know it was supposed to happen last year, but there could be a fight for the Chiefs. Matt Verderam is with us here on CBS Sports Radio. You said best case scenario. What is the best case scenario for the Colts and Jonathan Taylor?
You know, I visited the Colts as part of my training camp tour, and I was really impressed with Shane Steichen, and I sat there and talked to him for a while. I think he's going to get them headed in the right direction, but this year is just going to be a tough year, I think. I mean, watching them, there's just simply not enough talent for them to beat a lot of teams. I think they're going to be probably drafting in the top 5. I love Anthony Richardson. I think his talent, I mean, watching him, it was like watching George Kittle play quarterback, but be really proficient. I mean, he's huge. But he's good. You know, I think a lot of times whenever we have a mobile quarterback, we have this tendency to just say, oh, he can play outside structure, which he can, but he moves in the pocket really well. I mean, he's a guy talking to Steichen, really high IQ, understands the offense, understands what they're trying to do. My big question with Richardson is, A, does he just spend the whole year running for his life? Nobody gave up more sacks outside of Denver than the Colts last year. And B, can he be accurate? He was not accurate in high school. He was not accurate in college. It typically translates to the pros. Can he buck that trend? Can he be another Josh Allen, a guy who improves his accuracy as time goes on?
All right, before I let you go, it's a wide open. It's a free-for-all Friday. You can pick one other NFL storyline that floats your boat right now. Matt, what is it?
I think the Raiders are going to compete for the number 1 pick in the draft this year.
Oh, God.
I really do. Like, I look at the Raiders and say, you're in the wrong conference. You're in a tough division. I don't buy Denver, but I think Denver's going to be better. And the Chargers and the Chiefs, I think, are going to beat them 4 times. I don't believe at all in the coach. The quarterback situation, I mean, Garoppolo's played 10 games in his career 3 times. I believe this is now his 9th season. If they have to go to their backup, you're talking about Hoyer, you know, maybe it's Aiden O'Connell, who was a 4th-round pick out of Purdue, looked good in their first preseason game. I mean, it's bad. Like, I could see I don't think they'll get the number 1 pick, because I think Arizona's going to be brutal. But the Raiders might go, 3-14 or something. I mean, I think they're going to be in that realm.
Are you ready for your life to be not your own again? Because we're inside of 3 weeks to go until the season kicks off.
Oh, the last 2 weeks, all I've done is drive all over the Midwest for my camp tour. So I've accepted that, yes, my life does not belong to me until about May 1st. It belongs to Sports Illustrated.
There you go. Well, congratulations. The new gig, and you're doing it well. We're glad to have you on the show. You can follow Matt on Twitter at Matt Verderam, Verderame, now with SI as an NFL insider, and we're pleased to spend a couple of minutes with you. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Hey, no problem. Take care.
Matt was a guest also on my own show, After Hours, and we like what he's been able to bring to the table. He definitely sounds like he is in one of those modes where you just zone out at the wheel, right? Just kind of driving. Those states where they're flat, because I used to live in Oklahoma, right? I've done a lot of driving in the Midwest. man, you can drive in across an entire state and forget how you did it because it kind of lulls you to sleep.
Yeah, it's a funky feeling when you look up and you're like, how did I get here? That's not a cool feeling.
Where you drive, I don't know, a couple hours at a time, you don't see anyone.
And you
else.
just look at the
cornfields and cows.
Yeah, and it's just like anything else. You look at the exit and you're like, man, I don't remember getting past the other, those kinds of things. Not a good feeling.
Now, see, I feel better because generally when I'm working my own show overnight, my comfort zone, you're there. You're part of my comfort zone. And now here you are, and at least I know that something normal. I know. I tried to, it didn't go across very well, but I tried to complain a little bit minorly that my weekend is not starting until 12 hours later, 6 p.m. Eastern. So, taking one for the team here.
Understood.
But you, however, are starting your weekend early, correct? Because if you weren't here, you would be...
Yes. Technically, this shift, I would start whatever it is, 7 or 8 hours earlier for the weekend. So, yes, no complaints from me.
Kevin and Manny think that I will drop after hours as a reset, or as we call it, as a reset. That I'll drop that a couple of times. They're going over with 2 as the line.
You want in on this, Marco?
Do you want in on the action?
Well, you can't put it at 2. Neither one. You got to put it at 2.5. Come on, what are we doing?
I
didn't.
Yeah, it was me. I stink at that kind of stuff.
I was going to say.
Are you going over?
2.5 in 3 hours. I'm going to be nice. I'm going to say under.
Thank you. At least someone believes in me. Although,
if it was 4 hours, I would have went over.
During my conversation with Matt, did you hear me? I went, it's Maggie and Perloff. I was so close. So close. Old habits die hard. You and I have been here a long time. We've been here since the beginning of the network. A long time. It means that we're getting old. Let's not focus on that. Let's gloss over it.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that's true. It's a free-for-all Friday. Anything goes. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. That's not going to change. It's Maggie and Perloff. And I'm Amy Lawrence filling in. Here's our latest sports update. And here's my friend Marco.
CBS Sports Flash.
All right, aim of the Ravens adding a piece to their defense. Try to get to the quarterback. Reportedly come to terms. Former number 1 overall pick in Jadeveon Clowney. 30-year-old has 43 career sacks, more than the current outside linebackers combined for Baltimore at 28.5. Elsewhere, the Commanders have named Sam Howell their starting quarterback. No surprise there. Ron Rivera has had glowing praise for Howell since handing him the ball in the final game of last season. Number 1 pick Bryce Young already won the Panthers starting job, but head coach Frank Reich looking for a little bit more tonight in their second preseason game against the Giants.
As an offensive unit, this isn't just Bryce, but obviously be better on third down, and then get our run game going a little bit. And then, just overall on offense, we just need to have a better outing.
Now, elsewhere, Lions cut wide receiver Denzel Mims, acquired from the Jets just last month. He suffered an ankle injury during training camp, then suffered a calf injury during his rehab. Eagles likely won't have corner Zach McPherson for the season. Torn Achilles suffered in their preseason game against the Browns. Take a look at baseball. You got one game going now. You got the Cubs in front of the Royals 3-2. That's top 5. Coming up in about 20 minutes, it's game 1 of a double dip with the Guardians and Tigers. And, of course, later tonight, Dodgers put that 11-game win streak on the line against the Marlins. I'm Marco Belletti.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
De manera distinta, lo bajaron, ley de la ventaja, se viene Leo, aquí está Messi, le pega. Sonrisa cómplice de Andrew Blake. A los 20 minutos está ganando Miami 2-0.
Tell me that didn't give you a pick-me-up on a Friday afternoon. Boom, baby. First of all, those are some pipes right there. Second of all, it cracks me up because even if you're not a Spanish speaker. I dabble. You're not a Spanish speaker. It's still way more exciting in Espanol than it is in English. It really is. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. That was Apple TV and Sammy Sadovnik. We need to get him on the show just so he can do the goal call for us. That's it. And I know you understood. I heard Miami, I heard Messi, I heard some stupendos and some totos and all that jazz.
So Lionel Messi celebrated a couple of days ago by doing the Spider-Man when he shoots the web out of.
Ooh.
So that was one of the things that he said. The Spider-Man is here.
How do you say Spider-Man in Espanol, Manny?
Hombre araña.
Oh, I don't like arañas.
Neither
no
do
me
I.
gustas arañas.
Me either. I don't like the insects, the flying ones, the crawling ones.
No.
But yeah, and then he proceeded to call Messi Batman, Superman, whichever superhero you'd like.
Yes.
Lionel Messi is here. Miami leads 2-0.
He is. Okay, before we get to Messi versus MLS defenders, who also need some conflict resolution, it is time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listeners, get to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You tweet your question to CBS Sports Radio. So at CBS Sports Radio, use the hashtag #AskThePros, and then be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Wow, there's a caveat on this paper. We might answer your question. Wow, we're big timing people. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Also, you want to be listening later to know who gave me these flowers. And no, it's actually not my significant other. Maybe you should step up, significant other. I know he's listening. So, hint, hint. No, it actually is a really sweet gesture, and I wouldn't have wanted these flowers from anywhere else. So we're going to call it a Flowery Friday as well. How about that? Here on CBS Sports Radio.
I love alliteration.
I do too. Oh, it's my favorite literary tool.
There you go.
Manny,
Mine
are
too.
we actually soulmates?
Did we just
over
become best friends?
Alliteration? Do you think Kevin has any idea what it is? Kevin, you work in news and other media. Do you know what alliteration is?
Yeah. That didn't sound very confident.
Oh, I like the big smile on his face. Are you two also on camera is what I'm asking, or is I'm the only one who's in the hot seat?
You're on the hot seat only.
Great.
Yeah. Yep.
Goal! No,
That's right. There you go. Gracias, Sammy.
De nada. Okay, so Miami, Inter Miami CF. They bring Lionel Messi on board. He's played 6 games. What is it, 9 goals now? They have not lost since he got on board. Now, I know this is the League's Cup, Champions Cup, whatever cup it is that they're playing in. That's not really the point. Messi, although it is good to be accurate, Messi versus MLS defenders, it's not even fair. You guys, it's not even fair. He toys with them. I kind of feel bad for them, but then I think, is there something fishy going on here? Because he'll put a shot on goal. No one else will follow it. He follows it and then pokes it in on the rebound or punches it on the rebound or kicks it past the goalie on the rebound. Now, we know he does those free kicks and those set pieces. Oh, those are amazing. There's nobody better in the world than Messi at scoring on a set piece or a free kick. But do you get the sense, and here's why I feel like it's unfair. Not only are the MLS defenders not anywhere near as good, but I think they get caught watching him. Have you noticed? They're in awe of him too. They watch him instead of actually picking up their marks or paying attention to what they're supposed to be doing. And instead, he dribbles right through them, circles around them, boom.
I mean, think about LeBron James finishing his career in some random league out in Europe, like in Lithuania. That's essentially what's happening right now with Lionel Messi in the soccer world.
Wait, you think so? At 40 years old, though, that LeBron would still be he might be the best player on the court, but would he be able to just dribble circles through them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so. I think a 50-year-old LeBron could probably do that.
I do not want to see that. Can we take a poll? Who wants to see a 50-year-old LeBron still playing basketball?
Manny's raising his hand.
Oh, Manny is raising his hand. With Messi, though, his level of skill, it's so obvious that it's on a higher plane. It's just a completely different stratosphere for Messi.
And before he came to the United States, people have been saying that he was falling off. And
falling off, winning a World Cup, those two things go hand in hand.
That's what those haters say on the
haters.
On the beautiful website that is X.
Did you guys hear about the new thing with X?
No.
This comes straight from Elon Musk himself. He has determined that now his latest tweak to Twitter, because I'm still calling it that. Half the people listening have no idea what X is, right? Like if you say X, they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
He's taking away the ability to block people.
Is the mute button still available?
Well, that was my first question. Good call, Manny, because if I cannot block people or mute people, I'm not staying on Twitter. His experience, now I get it. He gets a lot of vitriol, but he gets off on it. Elon Musk loves this stuff because it's more traffic. He translates it into revenue, though we know that Twitter has kind of died. It's dying a slow, painful death since he took over in terms of revenue. But how about I invite him to spend 1 week in my shoes as a female sports talk radio host who, for the most part, mans my own Twitter. Every now and then, I'll not get to everything. I won't read through everything. But for the most part, I read every tweet. I interact with people as best I can. I'm trying to make a connection. I'm not joking about this. You two are probably not going to believe me. I am confident I have blocked at least 1,000 people on Twitter. And I've muted probably double that because the mute is funny. People don't realize that you're not seeing their tweets, right? So it's ironic because they continue to send you the vitriol, but they have no idea that you're not seeing it. When it comes to the block, I only block people who are completely vulgar and inappropriate, right? Or people who take nasty pot shots at me. They have nothing to do with sports. I don't care if people debate my sports opinions. That doesn't bother me at all. But there are some people who use foul language and go over the top and then direct it at me. So if Elon Musk would like to spend 1 week, 1 month in my shoes and tell me why the block button is not necessary,
we'll get Botch to give him a call and get him on. For after hours.
Yeah, we should do that. I'm sure that producer Jay, who I work with on the overnights, will get right on that. He would love that, though. And actually, Jay's better than some of the producers I worked with in the past. You guys can tell me, have you ever yourself been blocked by an athlete? Because one of the previous producers I worked with, he would go at athletes, and the athletes would block him.
Perhaps a 14-year-old Manny got blocked by Brandon Jennings.
Perhaps.
When he was a Knick, but I digress.
I'm trying to think if I've ever been blocked by anyone. Kevin, have you been blocked?
A immature college version of Kevin got blocked by David Stacks Harrison.
And who is that?
He was the defensive tackle for the Giants.
Oh, gotcha. What did you say to him?
Why
are you so rude?
Well, this was when Eli got benched before the Raiders. It was when the McAdoo era was ending. And I didn't say anything bad, but I was like...
You were critical?
I was like, yeah, I was critical. Like, look in the mirror. We're 2-10 right now. And you're taking shots at the fans.
It's just your tone of voice. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's your tone of voice. I think I've been blocked by a couple people who they don't like it. People don't love it when you respond to them in kind. So they can be nasty and sarcastic and rude and vulgar. But if you respond in kind, and I have a couple rules. I don't swear on social media. I really only swear about ex-boyfriends and the golf course. Oh, and road rage. I do get road rage, so I got to cop to that. But not on Twitter. And I also don't call people names. But people don't like it when you come back at them. You know, sometimes what's good for the goose, it's not apparently good for the gander. All right, I got 15 seconds to not mess this up. Are you ready? You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I'm Amy Lawrence. I'm in for Maggie and Perloff on a free-for-all Friday here on CBS Sports Radio. Boom.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Altuve buzzer is definite.
Oh, you guys are nuts if you think he actually had a buzzer under there. He did it.
What? Wait, Stu, do you believe the buzzer?
I believe the buzzer.
You do?
I think everybody
nuts.
believes the buzzer.
No. Think about how silly that really is. You think all these years later, nobody would have spilled the beans? Nobody said a word?
Yeah, but it was so awkward the way he was hiding something.
No, he had a stupid tattoo and didn't want people to rip a shirt off.
Oh, get out of here.
I believe that.
Who on earth?
Sure. Wait a minute, Ackerman.
Anyone I know with a tattoo wants to show that tattoo more than anything in the world.
Wow, you guys, I thought I was the conspiracy theorist around here. You guys sound whack.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
I don't know if I sound whack, but I do know that generally when I get fired up and I talk with my hands a bunch, my mom calls me a spaz. She has just entered the family group chat, and Mom is now listening. Hi, Mom. Congratulations on the start of another school year. So proud of my mom. She was my math teacher when I was in high school. She's still teaching math full time because she is a superwoman. All right, so no calling me a spaz today, Mom. Okay, I'm going to try to keep things relatively calm. But I'm not good at that, especially not when there's a microphone in front of my face. I'm Amy Lawrence. I know you're wondering why. I normally host After Hours here on CBS Sports Radio. In fact, it's been a long time. I am relatively buried on the overnights, but I've been happy there. I really actually enjoy the overnights. Crazy night owl, upside down, don't mind. This feels very strange to me, even though thankfully Kevin and Manny are with me. I've worked with them extensively when they filled in on the late night show. So if you would like to find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. Right now, Twitter is overwhelming a little bit for a couple of reasons. You can go check it out yourself and figure out why. Maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later. But yes, it's been overwhelming the last, we'll call it 36 hours or so, which does have to do with the flowers. Yep, see, teases. So many teases. Why are you two grinning at me like that? What's happening in there? Did something blow up and I don't know it? There's something hanging out of my nose and I don't know it? Kevin and Manny are apparently not paying attention and laughing at something on YouTube. I have no idea. You can watch the live YouTube stream on CBS Sports Radio on YouTube. Or if you want, you can catch us on Sirius XM, channel 158. We got a variety of apps as well. So yes, I generally do After Hours Sunday night through Thursday night, or if you will, Monday through Friday mornings. Instead, hanging out, filling in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio on this Friday afternoon. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you are the MVP, because when you see that green check, you'll know that part fits your vehicle. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Where is Russell Wilson when I need him? Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. More? Keep going more? Okay. Our drive of the day, brought to you by eBay Guaranteed Fit, came back on August 13th when the Raiders went 11 plays for 68 yards in a fraction over 5.5 minutes. Manny, did you write this?
I did indeed.
You did. Capped off by a Zamir White rushing touchdown from a yard out. Raiders beat the 49ers 34-7. Can I tell you something? I just violated one of my cardinal rules for you.
What'd you do? What did we do?
This is preseason football, correct?
Yeah.
It's against my religion to give scores for preseason football. Nobody cares about the score. Okay, here's the thing. If you care about the scores for preseason football, something is wrong. It's better to lose all the games in your preseason. This is my theory. After covering the NFL now for the better part of 15 years, if you lose all your games in the preseason, generally it means that your starters have survived, they're healthy for the regular season, and you're good to go. If you win all your games in the preseason, nah. Wasn't it? You'll have to look this up and confirm for me, but I think it was the year, either the Browns or the Lions. The Lions. It was the year the Lions went 0-16. Thank you, Kevin. They won every single one of their preseason games. No, it is not a recipe for success. So I have for you, Manny, I have violated one of my cardinal rules.
So you're not impressed by the preseason winning streak that the Ravens have put together?
No, it's bad. I know the Ravens have been a better team, but it's not good to win all of your games in the preseason. You got to have some losses sometime. It's the odds, if you will. It's just, it doesn't work that way. You don't succeed in the preseason and then, woo, that's your setup for the regular season. It doesn't follow. It doesn't track. But also, I don't give scores for spring training because that's dumb too. In the Grapefruit League, when your pitcher goes an inning and a half, right, and the rest of the guys are, they're minor leaguers who are getting a taste of it. But no, the scores don't matter. They're exhibitions. Let me guess, you're also one of those people that gives scores for an all-star game. You have much to learn, Padawan.
I'll be honest. I don't even remember what the all-star game score was for baseball, and I was doing updates for that night.
I don't either.
You see,
actually, I don't watch all-star festivities except for baseball. It's the only one that I watch. Oh, the National League broke the losing streak, though, right? That's right. American League had won, 75 times in a row, and the National League came back and won. Shoot. Now, if we're really smart, we can remember who won the MVP. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Give me some time to think about it, because I have no idea. No, I seriously have no idea. I did watch the game too. Okay, someone tell me.
Elias Diaz.
That's right.
Of the Colorado Rockies.
That's right.
He hit that late home run.
There's a reason why I do not remember. Yeah, so I do watch the baseball All-Star game because it's the only thing that resembles, the only one that actually resembles a game where you get offense and defense, but the other All-Star games, no. All right. Well, this is the last time Manny and I ever worked together. It's fine. It's going to be totally fine.
It's been real, Amy.
Again, it's Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. It's a free-for-all Friday, but we're also trying to help out with some conflict resolution because we recognize that there are some parties in sports who have major angst. And I don't want them to carry that angst through the weekend. I definitely don't want them to carry that angst on through the start of fall. Labor Day weekend supposed to be fun. You're supposed to celebrate. Actually, I generally labor on Labor Day. Not this year, though. But it's supposed to be a time when you're able to just milk the best out of the summer, what's left of the summer. No need to be stressed out. Unless, of course, you're Deion Sanders, and then he thrives on conflict. So here we are, minding our own business. Well, kind of. I don't actually do that well. We're trying to help various parties, like Jonathan Taylor and the Colts, come to some resolution of their conflict. We're thinking about, well, Eric Bieniemy and the Commanders' offense. Maybe it's important to remind the Commanders that they've sucked the last few years, and this is why Eric Bieniemy is now your assistant head coach and your offensive coordinator. There, conflict resolution solved. Boom. James Harden, we're going to get back to that. In fact, my friend John Kincaid is going to join us from Philadelphia. I know that he will cop to this when he comes on the show. I asked him, what time works for you this afternoon? He responds, and I quote, 4:20 Eastern time after General Hospital. Okay, I went through an all my children phase when I was in college. All right, that was it. But when I realized that on soap operas, you can have a couple in the same room for an entire month of dialogue. They never leave the same room because the soap operas stretch out the dialogue. They can be having the same conversation for a week's worth of shows or 2 weeks worth of shows. But I will give credit to John Kincaid. He has been a General Hospital disciple / groupie as long as I've known him. He is faithful. As nerdy as I am about Star Wars, that's how dedicated he is to General Hospital. So he told us it had to wait till after that, which is fine. We're willing to wait. He will join us from Philadelphia because, there's a little more conflict resolution needed between James Harden and the Philadelphia 76ers. But it cracked me up. And I know Manny felt the same way. We're talking about resolving conflict. And then we come across this video from Buffalo's training camp, Colorado Buffalo's training camp. Deion Sanders, he's manning the show. He does things a little bit differently than everybody else does. And a fight breaks out. Now, that's nothing new because it seems like in training camps these days, I heard Josh Allen talking about it recently. If there weren't fights breaking out, I'd be worried. A lot of these joint practices result in extracurricular activity. So we do get plenty of practice fights these days, this time of the year. People are hot, they're cranky, get off me, or as I say, muggy, buggy, no huggy. So that's probably what they're saying, right? This time of the year, it's hot, we get annoyed, maybe we're hangry, our tempers flare, and lots of fights break out. But Deion Sanders has a different way of dealing with the conflict and the fight that broke out at Buffalo's training camp. So there were a bunch of Colorado players who were scrapping. Is that like a cool word? Scrapping? They were scrapping.
I don't know about cool.
I'm not cool. Yeah, thank you, Manny. I am not cool. I just wondered if that's what the kids say. Hip?
Still used.
Is it hip?
It's still.
Did you hear Kevin in the background? So my nieces, one of them, she may have turned it off by now because she's probably bored, but my older niece tells me all the time, well, when I use the word hip, Auntie Amy, don't ever use that word. So, of course, I do it just to embarrass her. Auntie Amy, don't use that word. And then I'm not allowed to say I'm not cool because that's also embarrassing. It's all embarrassing. It's fine. I don't mind being embarrassing. I embarrass myself for a living. Deion Sanders also does not mind being embarrassing, and he definitely has different ideas. So a fight breaks out. Deion Sanders is watching this fight break out and guys pile on, and he has a unique message for a couple of dudes that decide, hey, we're not supposed to be fighting. I don't want to get hurt. And so they stand off to the side.
He just fought. I seen two of y'all walking off over there, and you got to keep teammate fighting. What they do that at?
Nowhere.
What they do that at?
Not here.
In one fight, we all fight. You understand that? I don't want to see y'all walking off when somebody's fight.
Yes, sir.
Never again.
If one fights, we all fight? Wow. I'm not sure I've ever heard that approach to conflict resolution. So what he's saying is, I suppose, team unity? If one of us fights, we all fight? If one of us jumps off a bridge, we all jump off a bridge? I don't get it. I do understand the idea of getting over there and helping your teammates, maybe breaking guys apart. That I understand. Let's not allow them to kill each other. We don't need a guy with a black eye. We don't need some broken teeth. This isn't hockey, right? Whatever. We don't want our guys like killing each other. But I'm looking at Kevin right now. I swear he's holding back a yawn. Are you holding back a yawn? Do you know when people, I'm on YouTube.
The sun is up. We're good.
I know, I'm on YouTube right now, but have you ever, when people are holding back a yawn when you're trying to talk to them? Let me see if I can demonstrate for YouTube. It's one of those where you can't keep your lips together flush, right? So all of a sudden you look like there's a twitch in your face and my brother used to torture me. Actually, it's not fun to yawn like that over and over. He used to torture me by pretending to yawn because I am contagious when it comes to the yawning. And not to... See? I swear, Kevin.
No.
It's the power of suggestion if someone yawns, right? So he would do it so much to me on road trips that my cheeks and my mouth would hurt because I couldn't stop yawning. That was unfair, Matthew. Completely unfair. Anyway, so, all right, you're sure if you need to yawn, just duck behind the computer screen. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. It is a Friday afternoon. I understand coffee break or caffeine break. So let's hear Dion again, because this is fantastic. Forget peaceful resolution. No, everybody get in there and scrap.
He just fought. I seen two of y'all walking off over there, and you got to keep teammate fighting. What they do that at?
Nowhere.
What they do that at?
Not here.
In one fight, we all fight. You understand that? I don't want to see y'all walking off when somebody's fight.
Yes, sir.
Never again.
Where do they do that at, he says? I mean, pretty much everywhere?
It sounds like the assistant coaches didn't know what the answer to that question was either.
Where do they do that at? He asked them about standing off to the side and not getting into the fracas. Where do they do that at? Everywhere.
Not at Colorado.
Apparently not with the Buffaloes. Wow. It's I understand the point that he's making, but if one of us fights, we all fight. Now, if these guys are walking off, they're not, again, trying to pull their teammates off a pile or a scrum, whatever it is. They're not standing up for their guys. That part I understand. If they're off getting a water break or something and they did it deliberately because of the fight. But that's a little odd, right? If one fights, so does that mean him too? Did he jump on the pile?
I don't know if you want Deion Sanders getting into fights nowadays. He's
already lost multiple toes.
That's what I'm referring to.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Deion is unique, but he does get guys to run through walls for him. So there's that. All right, before we get to our break, James Harden's agent. So we're back to conflict resolution. Maybe Daryl Morey and James Harden can go to a cage match. Maybe the fighting would actually be the thing. It's not just James Harden who's speaking publicly, but his agent, Troy Payne. He is out there waving the banner for James. Hey, come get him. Trade for him because he is going to have the best season of his life.
James has a crazy hunger in him right now. If he got an MVP this season, I wouldn't be surprised. That's what kind of hunger he got in him right now. Just from the disrespect, the free agency stuff, which I don't really want to get into. But
Please.
7 a.m., 2-hour, 3-hour practice, workout, come back. The nutrition is just even from the discipline, from dieting. I just went to his house now. We did cardio for an hour. We got a photo shoot tomorrow. We're going to get up in the morning and work out at 7 to 10 and then, photo shoot from 11 to 2. And then he's going to play ball tomorrow at 5.
That's going to make me yawn.
His discipline right now is impeccable. I'm happy that he's starting now. We got a whole month of August, whole month of September to get this thing going and get him in the best shape of his career. I think we can get there this summer. And I expect him to have a big season.
All right, so I'll amend what I said first hour when I told you that James Harden was going back to his playbook. Remember when he wanted out of Houston, he showed up fat, out of shape. He didn't practice. He violated COVID protocols. He was photographed middle of the night at strip clubs and that kind of thing. And he just refused to be ready to play. So now he's going to try something different. He is calling his general manager a liar. He's pointing fingers. The situation is, it's too late to fix it. The relationship is done. But this is a little bit like when you get dumped by someone or when you get scorned by someone, betrayed by someone, you go out and you drop 30 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. You get a spray tan. You get your hair done. You get your nails done. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience, but it. The two of you, I got you.
Can't deny I've done it before.
See?
That's three
right.
of us.
Let them know what they're missing, right? On Twitter, A-Law Radio, coming up, my friend John Kincaid, who I admire so much. He's one of my favorite people in this business, and conveniently, he is in Philadelphia. It's Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff right here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Do you have an open line of communication with the 76ers, and how much patience do you need to have to let this play out?
I've been patient all summer, so for me, it's just focus on what I can control, and that's working out, staying in shape, and getting ready for a good season.
Too late to repair the relationship?
I think so.
There is so much wrong there. Please don't get me started. James Harden in Houston for a charity event, KHOU Channel 11. He's been waiting patiently all summer for the Philadelphia 76ers to follow up on their attempt to trade him, and he thinks the relationship is beyond repair. Not sure that's a bad thing. I'm Amy Lawrence, in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio, and I cannot imagine anyone that I would rather spend some time with on a Friday afternoon than my longtime friend and colleague at this network and previous networks, John Kincaid, who joins us from 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. First of all, need to know, are you all caught up on General Hospital?
Yeah, I've not seen. We're pretty much through yesterday's episode. There's a lot going on.
How many years of watching this soap?
43.
Oh my God!
Mrs. Wu and Cyrus Renault are causing a lot of trouble behind the scenes.
Troublemakers.
So it's trouble. Like you, Amy. Very much like you here at the network.
Me. Hey, who's the one who loves to do uncomfortable radio? That's you.
Oh, that's me. I love this. Yes. And this topic, I've been frothing at the mouth all afternoon.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. Okay, so I say full disclosure. I tell people that there are a few people that I dislike in pro sports more than James Harden, but I've given my opinion about it. This is ridiculous, the fact that he's now going to try the same old playbook again to force his way out of town. But what, inside Philadelphia, what's the response to how he's handling his business?
It's surprisingly complicated. And when I saw James Harden was in Houston for a charity event, I'm figuring it was a charity cookout or something. That would be my guess.
Right.
He probably had cheese in a can and stuff that he could get himself. I love the guy, Amy, as he's saying, my job is to just stay in shape and do this. Well, this is a guy who between the first round and the second round went to Vegas for 3 days. So, I mean, he's really worried about anybody who goes to Vegas. They're worried about their health and worried about that. I mean, give me a break. He is. It's complicated because I believe there are many people here who think James Harden was lied to. They assume that he was lied to. I do not, because I'm not going to assume all of a sudden that Daryl Morey, a guy who has never had his character questioned, that his professionalism questioned, all of a sudden he turns bad when James Harden decides to do a Real Housewives of Philadelphia routine and finds his third team in 3 years that he wants out of because of some slight or something that he's not getting or the sheets aren't clean enough, whatever it is. And he finds an issue every single time. He's the guy, I guarantee you, that sends back food at a restaurant. He's the guy who calls the front desk and says the pillows aren't fluffy enough. I know he is.
I have a crick in my neck.
He's a diva. He is a diva, and I am not on the fence on this one. I am absolutely the opposite side of James Harden.
With Joel Embiid, he did lead the NBA in assists, but what I typically say is that when you have a big game, James Harden is the last person you want taking threes because that's all he does, and they never happen to go in when the game is on the line. And I don't know. Why can't he understand that maybe there's no teams out there that really want him?
If he didn't figure it out, Amy, he was. Here's the whole thing about it. He had the opportunity to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
He had the opportunity to be a free agent. But what did he want? He wanted $34 million guaranteed from the Sixers. Oh, and then he wanted them to trade him. And he doesn't mind if the Sixers, he wants them to be traded for whatever they can get because he just wants out. The Sixers are under no obligation once he opts in to give him, first of all, he gave them one team he wanted to be traded to, the LA Clippers. That's it. He didn't give them a list of teams or
like
give them any flexibility. So then that gives the Clippers all the leverage to decide what they're willing to give up. Harden, his act is so tired. And much like he played in Game 6 and Game 7 when he couldn't, he's waddling down the court and couldn't get any lift and didn't have any energy. He played listless. He played great in Game 1, and he played fairly well in Game 5. But other than that, he had a bad series. And Game 6 and Game 7, when they needed him most, I'm in the building with my daughter, Game 6, 6 minutes to go, 5 minutes to go. They had the lead. Game 6, they're going to eliminate the Celtics. They're going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. And Joel Embiid did not touch the ball. That is the point guard. The point guard did not get the ball into Joel Embiid's hands. But Joel Embiid's not blameless. Because what do you do? What would Shaquille O'Neal, my buddy Shaq,
demand it?
He would have demanded the ball. No, Joel Embiid did not. And then he's a whole nother issue, scrubbing his social media and all. I mean, it is drama with the Sixers all the time. We talk about General Hospital. I said there's a big difference. The drama on General Hospital, the acting is much better. That's what I'll tell you, than it is with the Sixers.
John Kincaid is with us from 97.5. The Fanatic does the morning show there and brings this energy. I don't know how you do it. I know you've done.
I did afternoons forever.
Yes.
I mean, and nobody told me. I mean,
Well, you used to do Sunday morning, Saturday, Sunday mornings.
1 day a week is different.
All right.
I mean, 4 a.m. every single day is not let's just put it this way. It is not the easiest thing in the world. So.
I don't know how you do that.
I'm trying.
You're doing great. He's with us from Philadelphia to kind of think about this from James Harden's perspective. But the team, though, John, if you're the team, let's say they come to you and they ask you for advice, what would you tell them to do?
I would tell them to hold strong. Because what did Daryl Morey do when he had Ben Simmons? Another one. I mean, it's just constant drama here. And Ben Simmons, who refused to dribble a basketball, refused to shoot a basketball, just was pulling his routine. What did Daryl Morey do? When everybody said just trade him, get rid of him, whatever, he waited. And what did he get? He got a good return. I mean, getting James Harden sounds good, looks good, thinks it's going to be good, and then it falls apart. And it is. But they had 2 shots. 2 bites at the apple to try to finally get out of the second round, and they couldn't get it done. But he waited, and he was patient. I'll trust Daryl Morey that he can wait out James Harden because as the CBA, the new CBA is, when you're in the last year of a contract or you're in a 1-year contract, if he sits out, he's not going to get paid.
Right.
And he's not going to be able to be a free agent. So they have him over a barrel. James Harden seems to think he has leverage, and he's going to get leverage by trying to mock the Sixers and create struggle and create bad headlines. It's only going to make him look worse than he already does.
John's with us.
But there's a lot of people's sympathy for him, though, I will say, Amy. Not everybody sounds like me. Not everybody sounds like me. They believe he could have been lied to. I have no reason to question the integrity of people whose integrity has never been questioned before, and a guy who absolutely has played games to now try to get out of his third team in a little over 3 years.
Oh, yeah. Even his own peers in the NBA will say he acted like a jerk when he forced his way out of Houston.
Yes. And I mean, I saw Kendrick Perkins the other day on television saying this man does not recognize his value. He doesn't understand. He's not 28-year-old James Harden. When James Harden looks in the mirror, he sees 28-year-old James Harden. He doesn't see what the NBA teams and scouts and executives saw this past year during the playoffs. He doesn't. He sees a different person. And I guess you see the best image of yourself and you want to believe in that. But at some point you have to be rational and realize his best chance to win a championship, which he claims is the biggest thing for him. He claims winning a title is the biggest thing. He's the only guy on the Sixers that went to Vegas between the first round and the second round. And that's not what you do if you're trying to stay focused. You think LeBron James is going for a vacation in Vegas between rounds?
Oh, heck no.
Heck, exactly. And that's the big difference. That's where you got the heart of a lion, the heart of a tiger, and then you've got James Harden. which is a totally different animal.
The heart of a sloth. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what motivates the guy, but money definitely motivates him. But he's not willing to do what it takes to sacrifice to be able to get that money.
John Kincaid is with us on CBS Sports Radio. Just about 60 seconds on the Phillies. Now, this is interesting, right? Because you were in Atlanta for the longest time. There's no chance they catch the Braves, but they did eliminate the Braves in the playoffs last year. So what signs do you see of the Phillies that they could potentially have another run like they did to the World Series last fall?
Well, last year they snuck into the playoffs.
Right.
They went 4-8 down the stretch, and the Brewers went 4-10. That's how they got in. I mean, and then they got excited. Things got, they got to St. Louis. They won the 2 games. Everybody got excited. And then once you get the games to Philly in October, it's the best home field advantage in baseball. And I know this. And I know this from watching the Braves organization. They're incredibly talented, incredible organization. But the minute the Phillies, if they were to get a lead in a game down there in one of the first 2 games of the NLDS, and they want the Braves in a 5-game series. And if they're the top wild card, if the Phillies win their series, they will go to Atlanta. Right now, the way it stands, if the Dodgers don't track them down. And I guarantee you this, that'll spook the Braves big time. They will be their bats will become sawdust because they do not want to come 1-1 back to Philadelphia because they saw last year. They got their backsides kicked 2 games in a row, lopsided blowouts because there's a difference between playing in Philly and Atlanta, and I've lived both places. I know both fan bases, and I respect them. But going to Atlanta is like going to a tea party compared to coming to Philly in Red October.
I like it. Before I let you go, I want you to know, and I'm declaring it here on national radio, that in honor of you, my friend, as you battle hard and there's only one acceptable outcome, I will have my first colonoscopy before the end of the month.
I wish everybody in the listening audience, and I love the CBS Sports Radio audience, and I enjoyed my time there so much, and I love the whole crew. I wish everybody would take the time to get a colonoscopy. I was not sick, Amy. I was not. I had no indicators, and I'm very lucky because they told me 5 to 6 months I would have been terminal, and it would have been done.
Oh.
So, and I had already had one at 50, and I was perfectly fine and clean. So everybody get a colonoscopy. Take care of yourself. I'll be halfway through my treatments this time next week, and I'm battling through. I've got great doctors, and I've got amazing support from people all over the country like you. God bless you, and you're good news, and I'm so excited for you, and we will talk soon.
All right, my friend. You can find him on Twitter at John Kincaid. Good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.
For those of you who don't know, John's very open about it, so it's not a secret here, but he is battling stage 3 colon cancer. And as he said, he had a clean colonoscopy a few years ago. Nothing showed. He wasn't sick, just started to feel a little discomfort. So went and had another one, and they found the colon cancer. The reason I said to him there's only one acceptable outcome is because that is his motto now. His family, they've got it up on a sign in their kitchen. He also has it on his Twitter. So find him there at John Kincaid, JohnKincade. And Marco, I don't know if you know this because we both worked with John when he first started here.
Many years.
I also worked with him at my previous network, so we've known each other forever. Not only is he a friend, but he's an ally in the business, and they are few and far between. There's a video of him as his hair started to fall out.
Yep.
His colleagues at 97.5 The Fanatic also shaved their heads. And he told me it wasn't just his colleagues. It was managers. It was support staff. And he said it was such an emotional moment, as you can imagine. Shaved their heads. There's a video. He just said he was overwhelmed by the support. So if anyone can beat it, and I know people do all the time, John Kincaid, he is that upper echelon because he refuses to accept anything other than a victory. And he's beat cancer before, so it's huge.
Right, and I'll also say I'm not surprised that they did that for him.
Yes.
Knowing John as I have over the last few years, and it's almost 10 years now, geez. Yeah, that's not a surprise that everyone would go out of their way to decide to be able to support and to help John because he's that good of a person. And that's not a surprise in the least.
He inspires connection and confidence. He also makes you supremely angry because he does not hold back with his opinions, but you love him anyway because he's really good at what he does. Just a great husband and dad, and I'm glad he has his family around him. And yes, of course, we're always glad to have him on the show. All right, on Twitter, A-Law Radio. Coming up next, we mentioned the Braves briefly there. The Braves and Dodgers are burying the competition in their divisions, but I'm not sure that's a good thing. Here's our latest sports update, and here's Marco Belletti.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
All right, and well, the situation does remain unstable with James Harden and the Sixers. Harden, of course, turning up the heat with his Daryl Morey is a liar comments. Now, Harden remains steadfast that he wants out of Philadelphia.
I've been patient all summer, so for me, it's just focus on what I can control, and that's working out, staying in shape, and getting ready for a good season.
Too late to repair the relationship?
I think so.
That courtesy of KHOU 11 in Houston. NFL Ravens trying to help their pass rush, reportedly come to terms with veteran edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney. No surprise, but finally official, the quarterback will be for Ron Rivera and the Commanders.
I talked with Eric Bieniemy and Tabitha yesterday, and after our first preseason game, after both those joint practices, I'm going to name Sam our starter this year going forward.
Of course, Sam is Sam Howell. Meanwhile, the Lions have waived wide receiver Denzel Mims just 1 month after they acquired him in a trade with the Jets. Mims suffered an ankle injury during training camp, then suffered a calf injury during his rehab. Eagles lost corner Zach McPherson, likely for the season, torn Achilles. Baseball, you got the Royals in front of the Cubs, 4-3, bottom 8. Tigers lead the Guardians 3-1, bottom 2. That's game 1 of 2. I'm Marco Belletti.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time.
CBS Sports Radio.
Oh, you can hear me. Sorry. No, I don't hear me. Does it matter? La la. Oh, there we go. I usually have zero clue how long these are, so it may be a little long, but I'll leave. You could always take off the last line if you need to. Okay. All right. It's got a sponsor too. This is the NHTSA. In 3, 2, 1. I'm Amy Lawrence with the CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by NHTSA. What's the worst that can happen if you drink and drive sober, or get pulled over? What do they have to lose? Maybe this time the Commanders will actually strike it rich at quarterback. They named Sam Howell the starter with no place to go but up, from dead last in a division with 3 playoff teams in 2022. They've had 13 different QBs in the last 6 years. Not a recipe for success, so let's see if this works. I'm Amy Lawrence. Let me just do the read for Odyssey. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. I'm Amy Lawrence with this Odyssey Sports Minute. 3, 2, 1. I'm Amy Lawrence with the Odyssey Sports Minute, sponsored by NHTSA.
Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Phillips to Willie Adames, and here it comes, and down he goes, swung on and missed, strike three. The Dodgers have won 11 straight. Phillips saves his 18th. The Dodgers' 12th shutout of the year, a season high 28 games over 500.
Olsen backs up behind Torres. He takes off, and the pitch, strike three call. He took one, fastball right there. Perloff strikes out for the third time tonight. He's got the hat trick, and Charlie struck out the side in the middle of the order. Judge, Stanton, and Kiner Perloff. He's got 10 punch-outs.
On the Braves radio network, Joe Simpson, and then on Dodgers radio, Charlie Steiner. And these two are on a crash course, except it's not that easy. And I'm a little suspicious of how the last 6 weeks of the season are shaping up and what type of preparation they will or will not be for October. The Atlanta Braves and the Los Angeles Dodgers are burying the competition. The only thing left for these two teams to go after is best record in the NL. And the Braves should beware. The Dodgers are now within 4 games of the best record on the senior circuit. But the Dodgers are 10.5 up in the NL West. The Braves are 12.5 ahead of the Phillies, who are not a bad team. Right now are the number 1 wild card in the National League. But outside of going for the most wins, there's not a whole lot left for them to play for. Stay healthy, stay in a groove, okay. The problem is when there's no sense of urgency and there's no pressure, we as human beings, we tend to relax. I heard Mookie Betts say the other night, yeah, we're really good. Okay. There's no edge there. They know they're really good, and the rest of the NL West has gone the wrong way. So I don't love this for either the Dodgers or the Braves. And obviously neither one of them made it to the World Series last year, despite the fact that they won their divisions and the Braves had 101 wins in the regular season. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio, heading up to the top of the hour. Next hour, we will talk Cubs baseball, because in the National League Central, which is actually a division race, right now the Cubs are 2 games back of the Brewers. How did that happen? But Cody Bellinger is having some kind of a resurgent year since he left the Dodgers, actually. And so the Cubs will be in the spotlight at the bottom of the hour. Coming up next, you can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I guess soon you'll have the upper hand if you want to be vulgar and inappropriate, because according to Elon Musk, fairly soon we will not be allowed to block people on Twitter. Okay. he needs to stop now. Stop tweaking. I was okay without the blue check mark. I don't need that. I was okay without the ability to DM someone who doesn't follow you. Have you heard that's another one of the latest? I don't care about the whole tweet deck thing. Do you guys use tweet deck? Kevin and
Not at
Manny?
all.
No, I've never
Not at
used
all.
it, but I've seen, I actually have seen the regular producer of this show, Michael Samter, use it. I've seen other guys use it, producers, because you're able to follow a bunch of different accounts all at the same time. You can highlight those accounts, and he's apparently taking that away, and now the ability to block. I don't think Threads worked because no one's talking about it anymore, though 100 million plus people signed up. Maybe the forum is dead. We keep saying that, but maybe it is about to. Would you miss it?
Not at all. When it comes to social media, Twitter is the one I use the least. So
It's the gum on the bottom of your shoe.
It's not the end of the world for me.
Oh, it's not the end of the world. But the problem is a lot of sports insiders and analysts and
That's the-
experts, they break their news there.
To be honest, working in
Reporters-
this business is the only reason why I have a Twitter account.
I say
or
all
an
the
X
time.
account.
Yep, I say it all the time. As soon as I'm done with this business, I will be deleting all of my social media accounts, and that'll be the end of it. I never need to hear from people again. Is that terrible? It's why I work late nights. I prefer fewer people, more animals, fewer people. All right, back to Braves and Dodgers. Here's why I don't love it. Again, last year is an example, but you don't really need an example because every postseason is its own animal. But the Braves and the Dodgers, while they've got a couple of guys they want to get healthy here and there, and maybe there's a race for MVP plus best record and home field advantage, there is a lack of pressure, sense of urgency, must-win games. None of that is going to happen the rest of the way for these two teams. We've got 6 weeks to go in the regular season, and they're not going to face a situation where they got to have it. Instead, somebody commits a couple errors. I mean, who cares? We're up. Not that you're going to hear them say it out loud, but that's kind of the attitude is we have this huge cushion. We've worked our arses off to get this big lead in our divisions. We don't have to worry about it the rest of the way. If we cough up a late lead, our closer blows a game, we don't come up with a big hit with runners in scoring position, our production goes down, well, so what? We are still going to win the divisions. There's no one in the rest of the National League that's going to come anywhere close to their kind of records. So they'll be the 1 and 2 seeds. We'll see how that shakes out. If the Dodgers can continue winning, they've got the 11 in a row. And the Braves have been on a meteoric rise going back to June. They really did put the rest of the division behind them in June. So these two teams, unless you would consider the other to be their competition, they're not going to face that need to be on the edge. And you know what that does? It prepares teams for what's to come in October. And I could use some examples from outside of baseball, but I will use the example of the Phillies and the Nationals out of the NL East. When the Nationals won the World Series in 2019, do you know they faced elimination 12 times in the playoffs? But they had already been below 500 in May. They'd had to climb out of a huge hole. They end up making the postseason as a wild card and then a dozen times face elimination in that World Series run. Living on that edge forces you to be comfortable with the pressure. And while you do have a lot of veterans on both the Braves and the Dodgers, and I'll say that, so they may be the aberration, one or both of them, because of the experience. It helps them. It's like the Warriors. Remember how they used to flip the switch? It was funny because you would hear over that run of going to 5 straight NBA finals, you would hear analysts say, what's the difference? They know how to win when they get to the postseason. They'll flip the switch. And yes, they were able to do that multiple times. But it's not the best way to operate because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't get the edge back. And sometimes, and I'll use a basketball analogy or a basketball comparison, Miami Heat, the number of teams they took out this year in the playoffs because they were used to operating in that uncomfortable space. They were used to being pushed to the limit, backs against the wall. I'm using all the sports cliches now. Fighting, scratching, clawing. I don't know if they were taking teams by surprise, but they had an edge, and they were willing to use it. They were willing to do whatever it took. And honestly, did you notice that in the playoffs, the Miami Heat actually performed better when their backs were against the wall? They really were not a great front runner. They were better as the hunter, not the hunted. It's Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio, and I'm Amy Lawrence hanging out. It's a conflict resolution Friday. The problem with the Braves and Dodgers is there's no conflict to resolve. They need a little conflict in their lives. That keeps them on their toes. It keeps them hungry. Where's the hunger? Actually, that's a funny question considering the fact that I'm always hungry, and I have no idea why talking makes me hungry. Does anybody else have that problem? Does talking burn brain cells, or is it just me? Not burn them. Use them? Earn calories?
I could say so. You know, you're
in there eating, so I know.
I got gum, yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Not eating, chomping.
He's
chomping.
masticating.
All right. I know what that word means, but I don't ever want it on my show again, ever.
He's chewing. That's
All
that's
right.
word for chewing.
Is way better. Chewing's way better. There's people out there who just drove off the road. Yes, exactly. Or who are watching on YouTube and can't believe what they just heard. They want to block you on Twitter, but it's no longer allowed, or it won't be soon. So that's my point. They're not going to be hungry. Not that they don't want to win a World Series. And, of course, with the Dodgers, they're seeking validation because their World Series came in 2020. It wasn't in their own stadium. That was the COVID year. They were playing in Arlington. People say it's not valid, la, la, la. For the Braves, they were embarrassed after last year. They were upset in the postseason after winning 101 games. So I get that neither one of these teams is completely fat and happy, but I don't love the idea that they're not going to get pushed. How about the Florida Panthers this year? So we gave you a basketball analogy. I can give you one from hockey. And I worried about the Boston Bruins in the same space. They were chasing history. And so while they were chasing history, they were brilliant. Through the end of the regular season, they were brilliant. Most number of points, most number of wins ever. Best team in NHL history. But you know what people are going to say about them? They're the best team in NHL history that didn't win. They got upset in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Why? Well, hockey's a different beast, right? So anything can happen. It's a little bit like soccer. You can be the best team. You can dominate. You can still lose just by the nature of the game. But the issue with the Bruins is it never should have gotten to a Game 7. That's the problem. And I believe, as many veterans as they had, it's because they weren't pushed. They weren't in a playoff race. They weren't in a fight for their lives. There was nothing to force them to dig deeper. All of this is human nature. I'm a study in human nature. I can tell when someone's holding back a yawn. It's Friday. We should have fun on a Friday. I enjoy doing this a lot of times on my own show, which I host Thursday night into Friday morning. Freaky Friday, Football Friday, Free-for-all Friday, a funny Friday. Am I missing any F word? No, not that F word. Nope. First, we've got masticating. Now we've got F words. What is happening here? It's Maggie and Perloff with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The idea about eating a bowl of Skyline chili, pie eating contest style with like your hands behind your back, that is just gonna be an awful look. And that's gonna live on the internet for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I'm kind of hoping I lose. And you know when a baby eats spaghetti and the spaghetti sauce gets all over it? I'm just picturing that.
Kids just like eat naked mostly for like the first several years of their life.
I have all these pictures of my two girls when they were young. It looks like they were just like bleeding from everywhere. It was just tomato sauce over their entire upper half.
It looks like a horror show.
They are Maggie and Perloff on CBS Sports Radio.
And I am Andy Lawrence filling in for Maggie and Perloff, who have a long weekend. And it's a good thing that you couldn't hear me say 30 seconds ago, because I just made this hysterical faux pas. But I blame Manny because he's now starting to use big words and trying to confuse people. Actually, I can't blame Manny. I blame these flowers because They smell amazing here in studio. I hope that you can see them. They're probably prettier to look at than me on camera. They are fresh, obviously in a mason jar full of water, and they come from one of the managers here at the office. His name is David, and he is one of the original employees here at CBS Sports Radio, as am I. When the network went on the air in 2013, we've determined there are maybe 6 of us that are still remaining now into year 11. DA, of course, who does our morning show here on CBS Sports Radio, and one of his lead producers, Pete. He just lost one of his other producers, Sean Morash, who many of you may know, but he's now working for our New York affiliate, as are Tiki and Tierney, gone to our New York affiliate. Mike Samter, who produces Maggie and Perloff typically, who's off today, he's also an original employee. Tom DeCelestino, he's part of the production crew that does the middays for Jim Rome, and also, who else? Billy was a part-timer, so he's still here, right? But Tom goes with Bill. He produces Bill Ryder, and then also is part of the Jim Rome show. Is that it? I guess if we're counting part-timers, Jody Mack, he was here as a part-timer originally, and Billy was also a part-timer. Marco was here as a part-timer. He's now a full-timer, but he was part of the network. That's it. But I'm so glad you guys are here for such a time as this. It's perfect. Manny and Kevin are with me on the other side of the double pane glass. So yeah, I love longevity in this business because it's not a guaranteed. It's very similar to sports. There's no guarantee of stability or security or longevity. You have to earn every bit of it, which is why I do not love the way that James Harden is handling his business. But we'll get back to that coming up a little later this hour. You can find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. I see a lot of traffic. We are on the live YouTube stream on the CBS Sports Radio YouTube channel. I know this because my family, they're goofing off in our family group chat. And there are people who are finding me on social and telling me that they can see me. I do not love being on camera. In fact, if you look at my own YouTube channel for my show After Hours with Amy Lawrence, that does not count, by the way. It does not count. I was not identifying the show. I was identifying my show. So you know, the two of you, and they're giggling. That does not count. When I do my own show, my producer, Jay, and both Manny and Kevin have filled in for him, Jay likes to make me do videos. So we do video versions of Ask Amy Anything. There's the alliteration. We do video versions of goofy stuff during Super Bowl week and fooling around. Once, going way back, a couple of guys taught me how to throw a spiral on video. It was embellished, okay? Anyway, I'm so uncomfortable on camera. So this is not my thing. I do not love being on camera. But you guys are making it easier, so thank you for that. Now, the flowers are the star of the show. You're going to have to stick around to the very end to know why there are flowers here in studio. They're not from anyone outside of the business. As I said, they're from David, who works with us here. And I'm not celebrating any kind of anniversary, so it's not that either, but I'll tell you at the end of the show. How about that? How about that for a tease, you two? That is Radio 101 right there.
This is why you're the talent.
We use that term loosely around here, talent. But I will say that I did do an entire segment of my class. I taught a class this year for the first time at Syracuse University, which is my alma mater. I got my master's in TV and radio there, and I've gone back as an adjunct professor. And one of the arts that we covered in crafting and creating a radio show that can be successful and stand out in a crowded market is teasing. Unfortunately, here's what I do. And you guys know this because you've worked with me before. I will tease something and then completely forget all about it. Have I teased anything today that I haven't covered? That's what I'm asking. Do you know for sure? The worst is when I tease something and I get to the last segment of the show and then I'm running out of time and I don't have time and I try to squeeze it in and I'm so angry because I teased it and I didn't follow through. Yeah. Sometimes I can be a tease because I tease a topic and then I don't follow through. It's not on purpose. I swear there's just a lot happening in this brain. I'll do one more of my this is how you get to know Amy Lawrence things. I tell people my brain is like a plate of spaghetti. Now, I'm not going to be stereotypical and say all women have brains like plates of spaghetti, but there are more of us than there are for the men. Men, maybe it's a little more like a chest of drawers. You pull out one drawer, you put a thought in it, you close the drawer. You guys are a little better at compartmentalizing by nature. Again, not all of you, some of you, I'm not stereotyping. Women have a tendency to have brains that are more like plates of spaghetti. I definitely do. For those of you who are Italian, whether you twirl, whether you just lift off the fork with the spaghetti, what happens is you get a bunch of strands of spaghetti. You're going for one strand, but you get a whole bunch of strands, or you pull a strand and a bunch more spaghetti falls off the plate, something like that. That's how my thought process is. I go for one strand, one thought, one idea, but it's a whole bunch of other thoughts that follow, and very soon I can get all tangled up and be on a tangent somewhere with my spaghetti. So it makes for entertaining radio, especially when I'm tired. My friends tell me you're much funnier when you're tired. I don't know what that means. I'm not sure that's a compliment. I'm much funnier when I'm tired. So maybe today, because I'm not tired, I'm not funny. I guess it stands to reason. I'm Amy. That's all I'm telling you. I'm not telling you anything else. All right, let's talk about the NFL a little bit. Segue. That was like crashing into a brick wall and just getting out and going a different direction. Okay, so Sam Howell is now the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders. This will be, well, he started one game last year, so we're not adding him to the tally. He is the 16th starting quarterback. I'm going to go back and check it. No, 13th. 13th starting quarterback. I'll even list them for you. 13th starting quarterback since Kirk Cousins last season in 2017. Are you ready? Do you guys want to play a game? How many can you name?
Can you
name? All right, Kevin, go. How many? I gave you Kirk Cousins. How many can you name?
Let's see. We got Alex Smith.
Yes.
We have Jim Johnson.
Josh Johnson.
Josh
but okay.
Johnson, I'm sorry. Mark Sanchez.
Yeah. Wow, he started one. I'm impressed with that. Okay.
We had Heineke, of course.
Taylor Heineke, that's 5. You're going strong, man.
Let's see, before Sam Howell.
Remember who they brought in last year who essentially flopped in the first game? He got hurt and they never...
Oh, Carson Wentz. Well, Carson Wentz is one of them.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. 21. They brought in a veteran quarterback that started the first game, and that was it. We never saw him again.
Oh, now you're putting me on the spot now.
He started for more teams in the NFL than any other quarterback in history.
Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
So that's 6.
Way to go. And you got Carson.
And I got Carson. That's 7.
And you got Sam Howell because he's starting.
Yes.
All right. There's a few here that I don't know if you're going to get. Remember, they surprised him. They surprised all of us by picking him in the first round of the draft a couple years ago. And then Daniel Jones fell to the Giants.
Oh, the late Dwayne Haskins.
Yes. Okay. So Dwayne Haskins, is that 9? Is that 8, 9?
That's 9.
Okay.
I think that's where I reached my limit at 9. So
Colt McCoy. He's still playing, right? Where is he now?
He's in Arizona. Yeah, he was a veteran for
That's
Washington.
Right. And he might be starting this year or to start the season if Kyler Murray can't get healthy.
Yikes.
Do you remember? Well, this always makes me laugh because remember the old movie, Who Ate Gilbert Grape, or whatever the movie was called? What was the name of the movie?
Oh, I don't know.
Who ate Gilbert Grape, or who? Google it. I'm just telling you, Gilbert Grape. It's a thing. I never watched it, but I do remember the title was really funny. Manny, you got it?
You mean the 1993 movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Oh, sorry, I was close enough. Who ate him? What's eating him? Who knows? Yes. See, my nieces tell me the 90s are back. Okay, so do you guys remember Garrett Gilbert?
No, I do not.
Okay, he started one game at the end of 21.
Okay.
How about Kyle Allen? Now, he followed Ron Rivera to Washington.
And I'm pretty sure he also got hurt too.
Yeah.
With like a bad looking injury, like ankle injury.
Right. So we got him. That's it.
So
Kirk Cousins in 17. In 18, the Commanders, they weren't the Commanders then, started Alex Smith, Josh Johnson, Colt McCoy, and Mark Sanchez. So that's 5 right there. Oh, I forgot we're missing one. Case Keenum. Remember Case Keenum? Because
yes.
Alex Smith got hurt and was gone for that 2-year period, right? So he got hurt, that devastating leg injury where he nearly died. Case Keenum, Dwayne Haskins. Then they went back to Colt McCoy. Alex Smith returned eventually in 2020, which was the story of the year. He was the comeback player of the year. Dwayne Haskins, they tried him too under Ron Rivera. Remember, that was not Ron's pick, but they tried him. And then Kyle Allen started 4 games. Taylor Heineke, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Garrett Gilbert, Carson Wentz, Sam Howell. And they actually did win a division title in 2020, but that was the COVID year. And they got knocked out in the first. They had a losing record and got knocked out in the first round by the
Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers, exactly. Even though it was in D.C. 13 different starting quarterbacks in the last 6 seasons. So maybe Sam Howell is the man. Maybe Sam Howell is going to make a difference. But as we heard from Matt Verderam of SI in our first hour, what do you got to lose? You might as well start him because Taylor Heineke's gone now, which I kind of feel like is a mistake. I know Taylor wanted the starting gig. Taylor wanted to have the job as his own. He was constantly fighting for it. He was a bit of a revelation for Ron Rivera and the Commanders in 21 and 22. He was their fallback. He started a playoff game, but they weren't interested in giving him the starting job. They've been raving about Sam Howell. Why exactly? So we'll hear from Ron Rivera. Why exactly? Oh, it's the other way around. 51-15. This is the sign language we use at night when we're not on YouTube. Why did they go with Sam Howell as their starter?
He's basically met the challenge that we talked about, and that was seeing the growth and improvement from OTAs and minicamp, and then talked about going into training camp and continue to grow and show us what he's capable of. And we've been very pleased with it. To the point where I decided yesterday that we were going to name him the starter going into the regular season.
I want to believe that Sam Howell can make a difference. I do want to believe that they'll strike it rich with Sam Howell. And there are a lot of people that love what he brings to the table, right? He got his feet wet last year. He started in the preseason, week number 1. I'm not going to give you preseason stats because I believe in them the same way that I believe in preseason scores. But they like how sharp he's been. They feel as though because they threw him into the fire last year, he's not a rookie, that he's got a little more experience, a little more adjusted to the speed of the game, a little more comfortable in the pocket. And so they wanted to hold off just a little bit. But the reason you name a QB as your starter is because then he gets all the reps and you don't have to answer the questions anymore. Just pose any quarterback question to Kyle Shanahan and see what kind of a response you get. He hates quarterback questions so much. And I understand these guys don't love it. Ron Rivera, same thing in Indianapolis with Frank Reich, and now in Indianapolis or now in Carolina with Frank Reich. How about get a starting quarterback and then you won't have to answer the questions anymore? So with Sam Howell, even if it's not a 10-win season, even if they don't make the playoffs, which they very well could, but even if they don't, you've got another year of experience with this guy under your belt. And so the signs are there. The initial signs are there. He's decisive. They like his presence in the pocket. They like the fact that he is a quick thinker. And that was actually something that Dwayne Haskins, they weren't able to kind of bring him up to speed ever. When he was their starter, they gave him a couple of different opportunities when he was, after they had drafted him early. But they like the fact that Sam Howell will go through his progressions and he'll do it quickly, which is something that a lot of young quarterbacks struggle with. They think that he's also pretty good at finding the open target and releasing the ball, not second guessing, not hesitating. So these are the qualities that they love about Sam Howell. The issue is, of course, that this division is going to be a bear again. I think it is. I don't know if we'll have 3 teams make the playoffs from the NFC East again, but it's going to be a bear for a lot of reasons. The Eagles, we saw them go to the Super Bowl last year. Jalen Hurts has only gotten better theoretically. It's all contingent upon health, of course, but they brought in more pieces around him. And remember that defensive line. But they have like multiple guys that had 10-plus sacks last year, so they were a brute force on that defensive line. So the Eagles are great. No doubt they've got some unfinished business this year. But they only went 4-2 in the division. It's not like they blew out the division because these rivalries are so good. And that's what I love about the NFC East. First of all, you haven't had a repeat winner in something like 20 years in this division. And so the Eagles better watch out. The Cowboys, the Giants, the Commanders, they're not intimidated by the Eagles at all, which is huge. Cowboys, they think they're going to get better. Their defense has only gotten 1 year smarter, stronger, more cohesive. Plus, you've got Mike McCarthy now calling his own play, so no more Kellen Moore, but they're giving some ownership to Dak Prescott. They're giving him some authority when he's out there on the field. They love Tony Pollard. They believe that Tony Pollard's the back to whom they can hitch their wagon, the star to whom they can hitch their wagon. I actually think the Giants are in a better position, too, though I still worry about, can their O-line live up to expectations? I know Andrew Thomas is a star. Can they get their other younger guys to live up to expectations? And then there's the Commanders. So I guess the good news is, I know I'm trying to present it as a positive. The good news is there's no place to go but up, right? Okay, so there's that piece. Stop laughing. I'm trying to sugarcoat this here. No, I'm not. I'm trying to be honest. In the NFL, half the playoff field turns over every year. The NFC East is in constant flux. I call it the soap opera of the NFL. So yeah, last year they were a beast. They had 3 playoff teams, but I wouldn't say that's all set in stone. I would say it's very much a competition. And the Commanders know they can scrap. They can mix it up. And Eric Bieniemy is going to toughen them up. Watch out. Watch the bleep out for Eric Bieniemy because he's not taking no for an answer. He's going to take your little softness and he's going to turn you into tough, actual NFL players. Tough football pros. I like it. It's conflict resolution. All right, coming up, the Cubs. They're on fire. Wait, why are you guys looking at me like that? He is next, right? Okay, so we're going to go to Chicago and our affiliate, AM 670 The Score, and we're going to figure out what's gotten into the Chicago Cubs. Also, what do we have in store for year number 2 of, well, I was going to say of Justin Fields as a running quarterback, but Matt Eberflus with the Bears, they brought in some pieces too, right? This is the time. They need to make some moves because the NFC North is wide open as well. Aaron Rodgers is gone. No one really thinks the Vikings are all that good. They're more of a house of cards. What can the Bears do to take ownership here? Could it actually be the Bears and Lions that go nutso in the NFC North? I'm here for it. As Dane Campbell calls it, it's a hype train. All right, find me on Twitter, A-Law Radio. The flower smells so good. So good. That's why earlier, instead of saying spelling, I said smelling because I was smelling the flowers. Sorry, Manny. It was smelling, not spelling. And it's Maggie and Perloff. It's awkward. I know. I want to say after hours. Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
ERA 6.5. Fly ball left field, pretty well hit. Back goes Benintendi. Back near the wall. That ball is gone. Pinch hit home run, Nick Madrigal. And now it's a 3-1 ball game. Bellinger leads at second. Swanson away from first. And the 1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Morel. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd.
Yeah, I got excited too. He got around the bases pretty fast. I think trying to make sure I think the manager brains like make sure you touch all the bases, dumb stuff like that. What a great swing, great environment. I mean, Christopher Morel, he's just so electric. That ball smoked.
That is the voice of one David Ross, Cubs manager, who right now has got his ship steered in the right direction. They are headed north, as in north side, and that's the final. Was the 8th inning that home run by Madrigal that set up the walk-off by Christopher Morel. And if you haven't seen it, it is one heck of a video because Morel lost his mind running around the bases, pulled off his own jersey, jumped into the fray, screaming and leaping up and down. It was a cool moment on the Cubs radio network with Pat Hughes. I'm Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio, and we are pleased to welcome a member of our Chicago affiliate, AM 670 The Score. He's the co-host of Mully and Haw on The Score and the Odyssey app, and also has the Take the North podcast. What was that moment like, David, for the Cubs, considering everything that they've managed to do to get to the point where they're relevant again?
Well, hi, Amy. To me, it was not only perhaps the best moment of the Cubs season, and some people may argue with that, but what you can't deny is it was certainly the loudest because the way that Wrigley Field erupted, it reminded some people who've been around the team for a very long time of the 2016 NLCS when the Cubs had a grand slam to beat the Dodgers, and then the World Series. And it was that kind of moment, and it was that type of electricity. And Christopher Morel, as you heard the highlight coming in from the great Pat Hughes, rounded the bases, sprinted around them, and was disrobing as he did so. So certainly a memorable moment for a Cubs team that has made this summer worth paying attention to.
They're now 4 games above 500 because the NL Central has been experiencing a down season, shall we call it? And it was the it was the Pirates first, right? Then it was the Reds. Now it's the Brewers, but the Cubs are encroaching. What has gotten into this team since, I don't know, say June or so?
Well, what happened in June was that they had a meeting in San Francisco, and they were really buried in the standings, and it looked pretty bleak. And they just said, okay, if we're ever going to take advantage of having this many winners in the same clubhouse, they really liked the team chemistry, they would have to start performing up to their capabilities better and more consistently. And really, since that point, they've been a very good team since June 9th. I think only the Braves in the National League have a better record. So, Amy, they put themselves in a position then during the deadline to make it a question of whether they would be buyers or sellers. And here in Chicago, the last 2 Julys, it has been the great Cubs sell-off. So there was some drama at the deadline. They did what they needed to do to convince Jed Hoyer to go out and make a trade. They got Jeimer Candelario, which was a good missing piece. So then they started looking like a playoff team. Now, here's the problem. They did that, and they had a break in the schedule that they're in the midst of, and Christopher Morel's highlight was the best moment of the season, but they lost today to the Royals. So did it really mean all that we thought that it meant? Because that's baseball. It'll just surprise you each and every day.
Yeah, it's very humbling. How are they going to fill the hole left by Marcus Stroman?
Great question. Marcus Stroman found out today, as is being reported now in 670 The Score, that he's likely not to be active for another 3 to 4 weeks. It's unlikely he'll be back this season. Drew Smiley will probably get the first look in the rotation as a replacement. The veteran who actually pitched out of the bullpen today, the next start would be Tuesday. Then they might consider some other options that are younger pitchers, guys whose names aren't recognizable, but in Chicago we know of Hayden Wesneski, who has been with the Cubs most of this summer, maybe a minor league prospect at Iowa, like Jordan Wicks, the left-hander, or maybe Ben Brown. It's going to have to be somebody emerging that you don't expect to, and certainly Jamison Tyone has to be better than he has been throughout the season and step forward and take advantage of this opportunity because the Cubs need his experience.
David Haw is with us from our Chicago affiliate, AM 670 The Score. It's Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio, and I'm Amy Lawrence. I loved the addition of Dansby Swanson. I know Cody Bellinger as well. He is right now leading the charge, having a resurgent season himself. What has it meant to have those 2 free agents join the team, especially in the wake of all those departures of the, I can call them iconic Cubs, right, that were part of them finally ending the drought and winning the World Series?
No doubt about it, Amy. You know, Chicago, they were legends here. Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javi Baez. And then they were all dealt away.
No Kyle Schwarber? No Schwarbombs in there?
Well, you know, Schwarbaum is a legend, no doubt about it. The thing about it was Kyle Schwarber was actually discarded before those guys in a salary dump in the offseason. And then during the season, Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant went on successive days,
right,
which made it all the more traumatic. But you're exactly right. Those were the days, right? So this offseason, this past offseason, you get Dansby Swanson, you get Cody Bellinger, 2 guys with winning pedigrees, but 2 guys in different scenarios. Dansby Swanson had the pressure of living up to the $177 million contract. Cody Bellinger had a 1-year prove-it deal, and he has proven that he can play at an MVP caliber level again. Those 2 guys have been as valuable as anybody in that clubhouse.
Well, so when you think about this group of Cubs and David Ross at the helm, I wasn't sure he was going to survive this when they were going through some of those the down season, but also really trying to fight their way back in. Why has he been the perfect guy to lead this charge?
I think, you know, like any manager in a sports city, he's going to get scrutinized, and his lineup decisions are going to be second guessed. Heck, that's how we make a living, right? But beyond that, what he has done well, I think, and his strength is with this team is that, take, for instance, the Stroman situation. Facing that setback unexpectedly after thinking you're going to get him back, David Ross didn't shrug, but he didn't overreact either. He knows the rhythm of a baseball season, and he knows that it takes a mental toughness and a consistent approach to kind of persevere. And so that makes him really the right guy to have a mentality to deal with the front office, who he actually knows from his playing days still, and deal with the guys in the clubhouse who understand he can really relate to. So I think his ability to mix with different types of players and also different types to balance the analytics that are given to him from the front office and also go by the gut when he needs to, I think he's done a really good job this year.
What is the bigger story in Chicago sports right now? Is it the Cubs' surge and the fact that they're right on the heels of the Brewers, or is it the Bears getting set to kick off?
That's a great question, and given depending on the day, I think like this morning we were having a lot of reaction that Justin Fields isn't playing against the Colts in the second preseason game. Oh, no. And it almost overshadowed the Cubs' weekend series at home against the Royals. I think you're enjoying the Cubs because it is somewhat of a surprise, and you're always going to be anticipating the Bears season because Bears rule in a football town that Chicago really remains. So the anticipation of Justin Fields this season it's created a buzz that is palpable, and there's so many people and so many fans and some people in the media who are just so desperate for this quarterback to succeed that sometimes they may see things that aren't there. But I do think he's got an opportunity. The Bears will be better. They'll be more respectable. I'm still not convinced, Amy, that they did enough with this roster in the offseason to convince me that they will win more games than they lose, but they will be competitive.
What's your perspective on the NFC North with the departure of one Aaron Rodgers? I know they didn't win it last year, but he's always been a shadow as long as he's been there over the division. So how do you see it now?
I think it's wide open. It's an opportunity for the Lions first and foremost. They may have the best talent on any of the rosters, I think, so they could step forward. We're going to learn a lot about Dan Campbell this year, I believe. Can
Yes.
he actually take that team to the next level? I'm skeptical on Jordan Love and the Packers. I think you're going to learn more about Matt LaFleur this year, and Jordan Love's going to get a chance to, finally it's his turn. We'll wait and see. Vikings will probably take a step back. You just can't lose that much talent and continue to be a team that you think is going to be at the top of the division. And that's where the door opens for the Bears. The Bears have a chance to really be competitive and maybe be that surprise team. I don't know that they have it in them. I think they're still going to have a hard time stopping the run and getting to the quarterback and then getting consistency out of Justin Fields. But the opportunity is there. It's the Lions' division to lose, and the Bears can go out and seize it if they take advantage of the opportunity.
I like it. All right, so David, before I let you go, I was stalking you on Twitter, of course, like any good radio host does before an interview, and I came across this on your bio, and I need to know what this is. What is a yoga husband?
So that's a great question. My wife Allison had a yoga studio. We ran for about 10 years, and now she's into trigger point therapy. But so yoga husband means knowing what namaste means and being able to do the downward facing dog.
So is it a little bit like a football wife or a football widow? Like you lost your wife to yoga for a while, or?
That's a very good comparison. It was a decade of being very flexible in more ways than one.
I like it. You know what? A good man will do that for his wife, so that's okay.
That's right.
Makes me admire you even more. Okay, so you can find David on Twitter at David Haugh, but it's Haugh, and he is co-host of Mully and Haugh on our Chicago affiliate AM 670 The Score, and also has the Take the North podcast. I like it. It's great to catch up with you. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes.
Thanks, Amy. Take care.
Yoga husband. That's good. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that Marco Belletti, you are not a yoga husband.
No.
But
and
have you
nor
ever
have
tried it?
No.
Oh,
do I
it's
look
so
like
good
I'm
for you.
flexible?
Well, okay. The point is, when you start yoga, you become more flexible. That's the point. It's good for your back. It's good. Why are you looking at me like that?
I feel like I've got a lot of problems and I need to start a lot smaller than yoga.
No.
I feel like that's
walking.
Walking's good.
If we had more time, I would ask you to tell the story of Halloween like you did on our show on After Hours. The story of how Marco nearly died because he was dressed up walking with his kids. Now, he thought it was going to be, a few blocks?
I thought it was a couple blocks.
Turned out to be 5 miles of walking in your costume.
At the time, 2-year-old in my arms the whole way. Yes. There was a chance. I thought a couple of times that we were going to drop together. So I was just trying to make sure that I could hold her upright and to the point of where the hell are we going and when do we get back to the car?
Now, see, that would have been a good starting point. You start with that death walk of sorts on Halloween, and then you continue, mix in a little yoga there.
Again, the yoga, I feel like that's a PhD that I'm really not ready
Before
for.
she passed away, my Grammy Helen started yoga for the first time at 98 years old. If she can do it, so can you.
Yeah, I feel like she's in much better shape than I am. Much better at 98.
Well, yes, now she's dancing in heaven, but at the time.
At 98, I think she was in better shape than I
No,
was.
stop it.
Yeah,
Oh,
good
my
chance.
goodness.
Good chance.
I believe in you, Marco.
Well,
I do.
that's one.
Stop it. Your kids do too, right? Your daughter, she thinks the sun rises and sets with
She's
you.
3. She doesn't know what's going on. She'll learn soon enough.
Oh.
Soon enough. The 9-year-old's already well aware.
Yeah.
Well aware.
Has he decided to hold your youngest son yet?
He's done it a couple of times. He's getting better. As he said, because I joked with him not too long ago, I'm like, you starting to, ease a little bit on your younger brother? And he smiled at me. I'm good with him
All
now.
right. For the longest time, Marco's oldest son, who's 9, would not hold the new baby. Didn't want anything to do with him.
And he's only 2 months. He's not even 3 months yet. So we graduated pretty quickly. He's rolling with the punches.
His
that he
family dynamics.
That he
I
had
like it.
no interest in the third. He had no interest in another sibling. As they put it, when we told him that we were pregnant, that we were going to have another sibling, and you're going to have a third, and he looked at me and he said, I got to tell you, I thought we were good. So we've come a long way since then.
Kids. All right, a couple more minutes to go here, but I'm always happy to work with Marco because it makes me feel a little less like a fish out of water, so thank you for that. Amy Lawrence on Twitter, A-Law Radio, in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. Here's our latest sports update, and here's Marco.
CBS Sports Radio.
Sports Flash.
All right, Emil, James Harden made plenty of headlines earlier in the week when he had this to say while he was in China.
Daryl Morey is a liar, and I would never be a part of an organization that he's a part of. Let me say that again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I would never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
So Harden's definitely not backing down from that. He was on KHOU 11 in Houston, reiterated that the situation is beyond repair. He wants out of Philly. In the NFL, Ravens helping out their pass rush reportedly come to terms with veteran Jadeveon Clowney. Ron Rivera has been steadfast about Sam Howell as the 5th-round pick now officially named the starting quarterback.
He's basically met the challenge that we talked about, and that was seeing the growth and improvement from OTAs and minicamp, and then talked about going into training camp and continue to grow and show us what he's capable of, and we've been very pleased with it. To the point where I decided yesterday that we were going to name him the starter going into the regular season.
Eagles likely lost corner Zach McPherson for the season, torn Achilles. Lions have released wide receiver Denzel Mims. Checking baseball, you got the Tigers in front of the Guardians, 3-1 top 6, game 1 of 2, 1 finals. The Royals edge the Cubs 4-3. I'm Marco Belletti.
Hey, it's DA. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. Minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It is time for the Casamigos shot of the day.
He shoots! He
The shot of the day is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos is brought to you by those who drink it. Instead of taking responsibility for the fact that Harden's a major reason why the Sixers did not advance past the second round of the NBA playoffs again, he's playing alongside an MVP, which is the reason that he led the NBA in assists last season. Instead of taking responsibility and accountability, now James is ticked. And you don't like him when he's angry because he starts acting like a child, calling people names, getting his side of the story out there. All of this because he thinks he deserves better. A better contract, a max deal, more respect, a trade somewhere else. Except I guess it never dawned on him that there aren't a whole lot of other teams out there that want to bring him on board. At least not for the asking price of the Sixers, but also not for James Harden's asking price. Hey, that was me, Amy Lawrence, in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. By the way, you two, I'm pretty sure you're going to lose the whole bet thing about how many times I was going to drop
terms with that.
after hours. The line was 2.5, according to Marco, and I did a half. I'll give you a half. I went to the F, and then I stopped myself. But otherwise, there's been a couple awkward moments between us here, but there have been no Maggie and Perloffs dropped for after hours. So
it took Patrick Mahomes, 13 seconds? It could take you 13 minutes for you to go over now.
I don't think so. He also won a Super Bowl in a leg and a half. So, bring it on. You're going to make a Patrick Mahomes comparison, then I will bring it. Okay, so since we're talking about James Harden again, it's the middle of the summer. Why are you the only NBA player we're talking about? It's time to answer our Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And the question comes from Preston in Fresno, California. Yo, Preston. Will James Harden be in a Sixers uniform when Philly opens the season in Milwaukee against the Bucks? Oh, man. I will say yes. I will say yes, he will be in a Sixers uniform. Now, he may not be playing. He may be under protest, but he will still be in a Sixers uniform. And this is what I think. In addition to pointing out how he's already used this from his playbook, how he's already made himself persona non grata, he's already asked out, twice in the last 3 years, right? Because he wanted to go from Houston to Brooklyn. He made the situation so miserable for everyone involved in Houston, they had no choice but to trade him. And then they do him a solid and they send him to Brooklyn where he wants to go. But that turns into an unmitigated disaster. Why? Because he didn't play well. Kyrie and KD were always hurt. In fact, he was hurt too. And so then because It didn't go the way I wanted. I'm not happy here either. Also, it's not a winning team. I'll go to Philadelphia. My old friend Daryl Morey will give me anything I want. And granted, his running mate, Joel Embiid, won an MVP. He is a part of that. Yes, Joel had to score when James gave him the ball, but they worked well together. They were a good 1-2 punch. But come playoff pressure, it's the same old James Harden. We'll see a game in which he shoots the lights out. He scores 45, 50. Why? Well, because, when he locks into a groove, he can score. So can most of the players in the NBA. The difference is that James Harden is not scaring anyone else at point guard when he comes to being a defender. And his shot frequently and routinely disappears, especially in the postseason. That we've seen before, too. The same old James Harden playbook, we've seen it before. I think it's important to think about the Sixers' perspective here. Do they want to trade him? Absolutely. Not so much because they don't think he's a good player or because they don't want him to be part of the fold. They wanted him to stay there. They wanted him to be there. They weren't looking to trade him. This is a contract dispute. According to Daryl Morey, James is mad because he didn't get the max deal that he wants. But I ask you, what part of the last 2-3 years would make any franchise out there want to give him a max deal? Russell Westbrook's not getting a max deal anymore either. Chris Paul's not getting max deals anymore either. Harden's no longer in the prime of his career. Yes, the Sixers are attempting to trade him. They tried to trade him. There were no takers. Number one. Number two, they shouldn't just give him away. And honestly, with the contract that he has, the option he picked up, they can't really just give him away unless they're planning on paying a good portion of his salary. So I know he told KHOU Channel 11 in Houston he's been patient. It's been a long summer and he's been patient. Well, he's going to have to be a little more patient because the Sixers shouldn't cave just because he doesn't want to be there anymore. You know, the situation reminds me of the Houston Texans with Deshaun Watson. Now, granted, Deshaun had his legal troubles and the team didn't want him on the field any more than Deshaun wanted to play in a Texans uniform. So James Harden's not been accused of sexual misconduct, sexual assault, anything like that. So that's not where I'm making the comparison. The comparison is this. Deshaun wanted out even before all the lawsuits were filed. Harden wants out again. Crying wolf, la, la, la. But the difference is that he's now with a guy who knows his playbook, right? And Daryl Morey. And Daryl's going to stand pat, at least he has to this point. He should stand pat like Nick Caserio in Houston. They waited. They were willing to pay Deshaun Watson an entire season to stand there with a clipboard and be inactive because they did not want him on the field and he did not want to play for them. So they bit the bullet. They paid his salary. Remember, he had just signed that massive extension. They paid his salary to stand there. But to them, it was more important to get everything they wanted in a trade. And look what they did. They fleeced Cleveland. Well, okay, maybe that's too strong. Deshaun fleeced Cleveland into giving him a fully guaranteed contract worth $235 million. And the Texans got back what they wanted. Enough that it was draft capital, and they were able to lure one of the hottest young coaches, who, of course, used to play for the Texans, in D'Amico Ryans. So it worked out exactly the way they needed it to. All right, so then circling back, I'm landing the plane here. Are you ready? I'm landing the plane. I'm answering your question, Preston, in Fresno, California. He may very well be in a Sixers uniform. I'll say yes, maybe not playing. Okay, because they can't come to a resolution. He doesn't want to play. He's going to be ticked about it. He's going to be pissy about it. And so for that reason, they may not have him playing. But I don't know there's going to be any more takers at the start of the season than there were 2 months ago. Do I need to now remind people that was the Ask the Pros question? I know. You can submit your question anytime at CBS Sports Radio on Twitter or Maggie and Pearl, P-E-R-L, and using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Amy Lawrence in for Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio. Is it time? Do I need to pay off of my tees? Neither one of you has reminded me that I'm supposed to be paying off on my tees.
You got to pay off your tees.
Thank you, Manny and Kevin. So the reason that our manager, David, gave me these gorgeous flowers, and for those of you who are watching on YouTube, they're beautiful. In fact, they're fresh, and they came from a corner of his yard where he and his wife planted a beautiful flower garden when he lost his brother to ALS. So a couple years ago, David, again, our manager, you all know him because he assigns your shifts. He lost his brother to ALS. And it was tough, obviously. His brother was young. And so they planted, his brother loved fresh flowers, loved the garden, planted these in honor of his brother. And because I've just shared some happy news of my own in the last 24 hours that I'm getting married in 4 months, yay, he decided to bring some flowers as a gift to say congratulations. And so these flowers are absolutely gorgeous. They smell beautiful, but they're even more special to me, and I know special to David because they came from his garden where it's an honor to his brother. So thank you to David, and thank you for asking. Thank you for caring. Here's the funny part. I have to go catch a train. And when I say I have to catch a train, I have to run after the train. I'm about to haul butt through New York City streets in Lower Manhattan carrying this beautiful mason jar with water and flowers in it. Do you guys want to do a bet on potentially me tripping and falling flat on my face? Don't say no. Say no. You don't want to do that.
I kind of do want to indulge.
No, you don't want to do that.
We're going to end the week on a high note.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your tweets and congratulations. I appreciate that. A-Law Radio is where you can find me. I'm back Sunday night on my own show, but this is Maggie and Perloff here on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds.